Greetings and welcome to another GatherVerse Summit 2025. Money, day one. Greetings to everyone that has come to assemble with us from around the world. For those of you that have taken time in this what's soon to be a December month, typically for everyone around the world, we're so happy to have you with us for our 26th global gathering. Greetings to everyone that's come to arrive once again at GatherVerse.live and our various social streams that are out there. We've assembled different leaders and those who have come to share their thoughts and expressions at the intersection of money and at the intersection of emerging technologies. This is a powerful time for these types of powerful narratives. We assemble with the clear and present sense of the urgent need for humane standards integrated into innovative scale. And at these standards, we have humanity first, accessibility, education, equality, community development, and safety, privacy, wellness, ethics, trust. We cover a number of different topics and focus points that are essential to cover in the world. There are many people, when it comes to GatherVerse, who, when we look at the opportunities that we're afforded, we see such a possibility. We don't necessarily declare that we're doing GatherVerse to make the world a better place. We believe that in many ways, there are some clocks that cannot be turned back. This is a volatile existence that we find ourselves in, and this is a really big earth that we all share. The reality is that the individual, the startup founder, the leader, the person that's working in a company, public and private sector, each person has an opportunity to be able to contribute collectively to the global impact of the need for greater sustainability. I say this on a day where much of the world calls it Giving Tuesday, where there are 501(c)(3)s and nonprofit organizations that are doing their very best to be able to contribute towards this successful narrative of sustainable impact globally for human betterment. There are many organizations that need help, that need guidance. There are many people that are here at GatherVerse, and people that have whole entire communities and founders, not just of nonprofit organizations, that are building incredible innovation during this AI global arms race, if you will, that need help, that need guidance towards the next steps. Not everyone's in it solely with the interest of profit, but the real inherent need to be able to take and replace old systems with better ones, with new ones. We have such an opportunity to be able to arrive together at a meeting point to discuss what's next. I'm here in Silicon Valley, and as well as everyone that's coming from different places, transmetropolitan, transcontinental. I've never seen technology move in such a way. I've never seen it scale in such a way. We talk about money and crypto assets and fiat and various different forms of currency. But do we truly understand the financial ecosystems that abide within the world, where they've been, the ethnography, where it's at, where it's headed, and how communities, both in the virtual and material layer, will do buy, sell, and trade ecosystems? Do we truly understand where we're at and where we might be headed to? I had a curiosity, and I'm so happy to see that there are those who are leading an industry that are building incredible platforms that have come to help lend to this curiosity. We're explorers. We're pioneers, and we are students. The inherent need to give, if not in digital currency, but in human peer-to-peer expression, both have equal value. We have several different roundtables to be able to join us and assemble today here at GatherVerse.live. We hope that you'll tell a neighbor and tell a friend of all that which is to come. We hope that you gain something with the time that's given. It is appreciated and well valued. We hope that even you, who's out there, that's never even heard of a GatherVerse, will find yourself in global assembly expressing with us, if not today, then one day. May our gather be well. First, before our next roundtable, a few words from our good friends at Pico, who has graciously sponsored this summit. We're thankful and grateful.
Hello and welcome to day one of GatherVerse Money Summit, and thank you to Pico for sponsoring us. And I absolutely love that video. But I'm here today with some amazing panelists, and we're going to run around to everyone and do a quick introduction. But before that, this roundtable discussion is about digital currency and the human trust. So very excited to be talking about this. So what we're going to do is start with my left-hand side or right-hand side, whichever, if you can see my thumb. We'll start with Nadia, then we'll go to Mohammed, Rodrigo, Sean, and then Jordan. So Nadia, great to see you again, and over to you, please.
Hey Russell, lovely to be here, everybody. My name is Nadia Bester. I'm the co-founder of Adlunum. It's a Web3 and now also an AI company, because that's of course what one does in 2026 or almost 2026. So I've been in the crypto space since 2017 and very focused on how to build more equitable systems that empower the everyday person as opposed to institutions. Happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us, Nadia. Mohammed, over to you. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mohammed. I'm currently 21. I'm the executive director of the Gen Z movement. I'm an author as well. I'm a professional speaker on AI and understanding AI as we bringing AI into the Gen Z movement. And happy to be here. Nice to meet all of you.
Thank you for joining us, Mohammed. Rodrigo, great to see you for the first time. Please introduce yourself and welcome to GatherVerse.
Thank you, Russell. Hi, my name is Rodrigo Movino. I'm 29 years old, and I'm the co-founder of Serang Wealth Management, and we're an investment manager in which we invest mainly in crypto, and we have been in crypto since 2018.
Thank you for joining us, Rodrigo. Sean, you know the drill.
Good to see you, Russell. Happy holidays. I'm Sean Mann. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called RP1. We've actually created the world's first 3D browser. And so if you think the inflection point of when the first web browser opened up the World Wide Web, we've literally created the first start of an open ecosystem for the spatial internet. And really, it's going to help deliver XR experiences, AI, and obviously some Web3 components to the world with no friction. So super excited about it.
Thank you for joining us, Sean. And last but not least, the legend himself, Jordan. Welcome once again. And please introduce yourself. Oh, Jordan, I think you are either muted or your microphone's unplugged. I'm not sure which one it is. Might be one or the other. But in the meantime, whilst you sort that, I'll quickly... Oh, there we go.
Yes.
There we go. You're
Sorry
ready.
about that.
Awesome.
For some reason,
Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, defaulting to some AI noise canceling microphone I don't have. So great to see you again, Russell. Happy to be here again on the GatherVerse. So my name's Jordan Woods, and I'm a founding partner at StarChain Ventures. StarChain Ventures is a Silicon Valley-based VC, and we're very much focused on both AI as well as blockchain, Web3, transforming all of the major industries like finance and healthcare and supply chain. We wrote a book called Enterprise Blockchain Has Arrived, which actually predicts a lot of the things that are happening right now, and happy to get into that more on the roundtable.
Appreciate you being with us, Jordan, and great to see you once again. And also, I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Russell. I am the GatherVerse, Director of Global Affairs at GatherVerse, and also I am the co-founder at JustVerify as well. And JustVerify is focused on building the trust infrastructure for AI, and obviously one of the core components being that is obviously digital currency within AI. So happy to be with you all here, and let's get straight into the questions. So question 1 is, how would trust be defined when it comes to digital currencies? So what we'll do is we'll go around the same way that we just did a minute ago. So Nadja, we'll head over to you, and then Mohammed. So please, Nadja, kick us off. What would trust be defined when it comes to digital currencies for you and your lens, Nadja?
Yeah, I mean, I think, just quickly to get us all on the same page, trust is not an absolute thing. It is highly subjective, and ultimately it's about strategically suspending disbelief for as long as it takes to, get through with the transaction. So I think ultimately, if we look at history and we look at how far we've come, we've moved from the kings and the kingmakers to today, we trust the code. And now going forward, we are talking about an agentic web where trust takes on a completely different meaning, because now we'll have AI agents interacting and making transactions on our behalf. What trust means to them? What trust means to a human is something completely different than the code itself. So I think it's very interesting, if you look at sort of how blockchain has evolved, and now, of course, with AI as well, we are increasingly replacing human authority with these technological systems. And I think it's really, really interesting if you look at sort of the relationship that humans have had with trust up until now. We've always had to trust, whether it's authorities or whether it's the systems that we participate in. And really, for the first time ever, we are being asked to look at what trust is. And so I think, ultimately the difference between the definition of trust in the past was kind of the trust me, bro, vibe, as opposed to today, where we say, okay, well, I don't actually need to trust you. I can trust in the code because I trust in the math and I trust in the algorithm. So yeah, excited to get more into this as we go along.
Very interesting perspective, Nadja. And I would agree in some aspects, maybe disagree in some other aspects. Like, for example, I think the definition is still definitely the same when it comes to AI. So, for example, it's the belief in the trust for someone or something. So if you basically trust your AI to do its capabilities when it comes to the performance, the behavior of the model, then, that's kind of one side of it. But I also do agree on the other aspect that, is the definition or is the the trust being adjusted, so to speak, when it comes to AI. So I definitely see your perspective there. Mohammed, what is your thoughts on how would trust be defined when it comes to digital currencies from your lens? Is it over time? Is it like, just give us like a bit of your perspective on that, Mohammed.
I think, am I audible now? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. I think it's from my perspective, it's having the confidence that the system will basically protect value and ensure fairness as well, right? And I think operate transparently without exploiting its users. And once that is achieved, I think it's the briefed system that will actually serve people and not the other way around. So
Okay.
over time, I think once these have been implemented, then I think trust will be more, what would the word be? Efficient, I think.
Yeah, that's one word. But yeah, and transparency is one of the core parts of trust for sure. And I think trust is a very multitude equation. It's not just the one thing that actually really defines trust. There's multiple parts to this. That's why I believe there's going to be trust architects and trust people out there who are going to literally be specifically focusing on trust, maybe even trust engineers. But Rodrigo, from your lens and from your point of view, from the wealth management side, I mean, it's a very interesting industry for sure. How would trust be defined when it comes to digital currencies from your point of view, Rodrigo?
Well, from my point of view and regarding the investment management world, it's, I think, of course, in the technology, right, that the system will work fairly, but also what I think is that we have to even go back, because it's to the foundations of any monetary system, right? So why do people trust in any type of monetary system, either fiat or digital currencies in this case, right? So it's what's behind the currency, right? So right now in fiat, well, you have governments. Basically, you have governments and central banks. Whilst in digital currency, there's a slight change. You have technology. You have enterprises, including, right? You have people. It's not the same. So it's a sort of a change of a dynamic of what to trust, who to trust, right? And we're living right now in a world, in a time where, well, people they're not trusting governments anymore, and digital currencies during this change where the economic model is changing, and it has to change. Digital currency will be the next step for the monetary system, right? So trust has to be more of trust in humans again, more than institutions, but more in humans and what we create, meaning the technology behind the digital currency.
No, that's very interesting, Rodrigo. And, when you think about stable coins, when you think about crypto, and also when you think about tokens, it's a very, you never know who are behind these projects. You never know what they're going to do. How many scams has there been now in Web3 over the years? I mean, Nadja, I'm sure you know that very well, as much as I do. So, it is a very complicated world, I guess, we're going into, and it's like, okay, who do we trust, who do we not trust? And that's something we really work on at Just Verify, is we work on the verification aspects, and we believe verifying before trusting, so to speak, right? Being able to verify, okay, has the cryptocurrency gone from one wallet to another? Can we verify who the person is behind the scenes and making sure that they're legit, etc.? So Sean, let's bring the conversation over to you. I want to ask you a bit of a different question. In what ways does the trustworthiness of a digital currency differ between decentralized and centralized system? And this is a very interesting conversation, especially when it comes to the blockchain aspect. So what are your thoughts on this, Sean?
Well, it's kind of tough. I mean, I think Web3 and blockchain present some amazing monetary ways of transacting all over the world with some more freedom than we have today. But I think there's a lot of challenges. I think a lot of the cryptocurrencies are scams. They're typically around projects. They're there to make money really fast, but they're not built to really for long-term value or long-term transactions, if you will. But the ones that have actually done that, which are more like stable coins, they're being used every day. So I think there's other challenges, outside of trust, because I think there are some great products out there that people are using that make it really easy to transfer global currency all over the world, which I think is a big challenge. I think if you think of trust, I actually think of it in a different way. I think you have to have the freedom of choice and remove the friction. And I think friction is one of the biggest challenges with Web3 components today. But as long as you have lots of choice, if you really think about just looking at today, and just even with the question, current currencies, we have built trust over time with companies that we recognize that have delivered value, right? And if you look at MasterCard and Visa and American Express and all these different ways of doing transactions, you've built trust. But the reason why there's trust is there's a freedom of choice. And so if a consumer doesn't believe in a brand or a company, they have a choice to pick something else that actually can do their transactions. And I think that freedom of choice is extremely important. And so you need a system that really brings all these things together and gives the choice to the consumer or business to be able to do these transactions from a blockchain standpoint.
And it's a very interesting way to look at it. And I do think that's an interesting perspective. And I would also throw into that verifiability, but also credibility too. And those two side of things as well. And I think, you have to make sure that this person is like a credible person, or like you're saying, a brand, is credible before you even think about trusting it. So having a wide selection of choices for sure, but also making sure that those wide choices are also credible and also verifiable too, to make sure that you can trust them. So I completely agree with what you're saying, Sean, and I'm just adding stuff on top of that just to make sure that they are trustworthy in a nutshell, really.
Yeah.
So Jordan, you've heard what all the other panelists say. You've heard what I've said. And obviously, I'm very curious about your book too, but I want to stick with this question for a second. From your point of view and from your lens, in what ways does the trustworthiness of a digital currency differ between decentralization and centralized systems? I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this, especially from a VC point of view.
Second, am I muted or am I okay?
I just unmuted you quickly. I think you were muted. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So it's very important to kind of think about the differences between a standard like paper-based currency and a digital currency, right?
Okay.
So if you have a paper-based currency, it's centrally printed, right? But the actual transactions that happen in between individuals. It's actually decentralized. So the idea, so the experience is that yes, that piece of paper that I have has a particular value. So I think some of the previous panelists talked about value. So the transparent value of that currency is important. The fact that people will accept it, right? And then it has value. You also have to have accurate transactions, right? So when people are carrying out transactions, there has to be a mechanism that if I'm giving you 5 of this currency, that you accept 5 and I get correct change, these types of things. And there has to be, the understanding that I'm not being surveilled, right? There isn't, I have privacy when I'm carrying out this transaction. And I think that's something that, is when you're working with cash, there's a sense that you're not being watched by anyone. We have had a movement to some level of digital, right? When you're working with, say, a credit card, or you have, a bank account, and you can go and see digitally, what your transactions have been if you're paying online, for example. So there has been a movement. Now, that digital currency is the same as the fiat currency, right? We're all working, for example, in the US in dollars. So, and then we expect that the different vendors that we're working with give us, an accurate transaction. Now, in a centralized system, those transactions and the value, so the accurate transactions are carried out centrally. So basically, like others have mentioned, there has to be trust in that central provider. So be that a government, right? Or if I'm
Or the
carrying out a
bank.
transaction, right?
Yeah.
That particular provider, it's not the government at that point, is carrying out the transaction in an accurate way. And I also need to feel that that my privacy is protected. So I don't feel that the bank is spying on me, or the government knows about every one of my transactions. Now, we do see in movies, like spy and thriller movies, that we can be surveilled, right? That people can quickly go and see my transactions. They can gain access to my credit card transactions. They can get my location information. So in a centralized system, you do have the ability to have your privacy breached, right? Because it is a centralized system. Now, the issue as well, when you go to a decentralized system, you have to look at what are the challenges. One of the biggest challenges when the first decentralized digital currencies were produced was the double spend problem. This idea that you can just create an infinite amount of money because it is digital, and now I can be an instant millionaire, or I can be a billionaire because I can just generate money. So there has to be protection from what is called the double spend problem, right? So in a decentralized system, I need to have the ability to know that I have privacy. I need to know that I have, which I don't have in a centralized system, right? So this is an advantage for using the decentralized system, is that my privacy is protected. I have to have accurate transactions. I have to have transparent value, and I need to know that currency is not going to be artificially generated, right? So these are the differences that I have to trust a central authority. And Nadia talked about, I trust the network, right? So in a decentralized system, I trust the network to protect these four things, whereas in a centralized system, I trust a bank, or I trust the government. So where trust is breached is when
It's in the centralized system.
one of those four things doesn't happen, right? So the difference is I'm trusting, like Nadia said, the system to provide me with those four things, and I'm not trusting an individual. And so the more decentralization you have, the more privacy, the faster those transactions, the lower the fees, the lower the costs. And this is basically what we're seeing now, is we're shifting from centralized systems, which are actually inefficient, and especially if they're paper-based, to decentralized systems that are much more efficient because they are running through a network without middlemen and these types of things. So this is the transition that we're going through, but it's actually quite a complex issue, because you have to understand first what money is, how does it work, and what are people looking for in terms of the ability to trust. And we've covered a lot of these points. We cover a lot of these things in our book, but I just wanted to kind of lay out kind of a framework, because with that, we can now start to see what the differences are, and then make a decision. Are you going to go with one, or are you going to go with the other?
Well, thank you, Jordan, for sharing that. And there's a lot that obviously we can jump into and discuss there, but we've literally run out of time, so I'm going to have to jump straight into the next question. So thank you, Jordan, for sharing that. And the next question is, how do we build trust among users who don't understand the underlying technology? So blockchain in this case, or Web3, or other aspects of that too. So Nadia, what are your thoughts on this? How do we build trust among users who don't understand the underlying technology?
Yeah, I think I've completely changed my opinion, because up until very recently, I always thought that education was the answer. I don't think that that's an issue at all. I think that users have zero interest in learning about what the code is and what the algorithms are and what the safeguards are. They just want the magic button to do what they want it to do when they click it. And so I think, in all the years that I've been in blockchain, whether as a journalist or as a founder or as an advisor, everybody has been talking about educating users in order to onboard them. But try to go on a DEX, try to use a wallet, basically try to do anything in crypto, and you're one site and you run the other way.
Right.
So I think it's incredibly important, stop trying to impress people with the bells and whistles of what the technology can do. Very few of us understand email, yet we use it every day. And that goes for basically anything. People don't know how AI or generative AI works, and yet it had the fastest, ChatGPT had one of the fastest adoptions of any app ever. So I think it's incredibly important to understand that people, they use things because they work repeatedly, consistently. So every time that I try to do it, it's easy to do and it does what I want it to do. And all my friends are doing it as well. So it really, for me, is not about whether or not they understand the tech, but whether the tech can very, very easily integrate into their everyday lives. So we have to do account abstraction. We cannot expect when someone signs into an app to connect their wallet, and they have to remember seed phrases. And it's just too much. And I'm saying this as someone who works in the industry. It's too much for me. You could never, if it's Christmas holidays soon, no one in crypto goes home over the holidays and educates their family on crypto. We all know how that goes.
Like the seed word phrase and going, oh yeah, let me remember that.
I mean, basically, if anyone asks you about crypto, you say, hey, buy Bitcoin or otherwise stay away. And it's tragic because we've kind of shot ourselves in the foot. It was great to get really excited and hyper-focus, but we've basically chased everyone away by focusing on the wrong things, not focusing on safety, not focusing on building a healthy and a sustainable ecosystem. So I think those are the challenges going forward, is making the tech invisible, making crypto not crypto, but just making it money. And then, just, I guess, keeping it safe in general. But that's probably a larger discussion for a different day.
It sounds like to me, you meet the people where they're at, and very much in a nutshell. Like, one thing I will say about the Web3 industry, over the last kind of couple of years, I mean, I would say up to recently, is they understood that they couldn't do the old ways of having MetaMask, right? So they're meeting people where they're at, like, okay, let's use a username and a password, and let's, use all the traditional stuff, which, in Web 2 landscape, if you want to say that, they understand, right? So everyone understands the password, everyone understands email, everyone understands, oh, I forgot my password, put my email in. So that's kind of like what people tend to do now. So, that's one thing I will say about the companies. But I think when it comes to a trust perspective, the underlying technology, when we're talking about blockchain and the immutability of the data that goes on there, and when we're talking about the transparency aspect of that and being able to have that publicly accessible, I think that's great, for people to be able to have that and be able to see it, publicly see that. Now, obviously, it has to be anonymized, of course. You can't just put any old data on there. You don't want to be putting your own personal data in there. Of course, everyone can publicly see that on the blockchain. But, the underlying technology of blockchain is fantastic. It just has to be used in the correct way. But if you use in the correct way, then that's great. And then you've also got, and I will go into sort of another rabbit hole quickly, and then we'll switch to the next question, is also the private blockchains too, right? So you've got public blockchain, but then you've also got private blockchains when it comes to the financial sector, like Rodrigo and Jordan, right? You guys mostly work with private blockchains as well as public blockchains too. So the anonymization and the data has to be secure is very important when it comes to like the Financial Conduct Authority here in the UK and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm going on a spiel, but let's dive into the next question. Sorry, Mohammed, actually, we was going to have you on this question. My apologies, and then we'll jump to the next question after. So, Mohammed, what are your thoughts on how do we build trust among users who don't understand the underlying technology, aka meeting them where they're at?
Thank you, Russell. Trust, in my way, shouldn't demand expertise. It should earn by Nadia again. She said that it should be simple enough, right? And people actually trust what is easy and feels simple to use, right? And because blockchain and digital currency, so forth, has always been or narrated as such a complex subject or a course, right? Like you wouldn't go home and talk about blockchain, right? It feels too complex, and it's very complex for people to understand it before they can even trust it. I mean, we don't understand email, but we use it. But we understand that if an email is being sent from me, you're sending it to the other person who's going to receive it. You understand that underlying effect, right? But with blockchain and crypto, you don't understand what's happening. You don't even understand
Mhm.
what's happening once you buy crypto, right? So trust can only begin if you understand a bit of it, or how transactions, or how it's recorded on the blockchain, or so forth. That's how I think it's gonna be there.
And I absolutely agree. Like people need to know, the underlying, like not necessarily the technology itself, but what does it do for me? In a nutshell. How does this help me? What's this benefit for me? Is like, for example, we don't go home and talking about the internet, but well, we could if you wanted to. Depends how you want to geek out, to be honest. But no, I completely agree, Mohammed. And obviously that's very important, talking about the benefits. Why is this great? How has this helped me? How's the instant, I mean, like Jordan was saying, the instant transaction between one person to another, that's what its benefits. The benefit is you haven't got to worry about handling cash to another person, or going through a bank and then waiting 50 days just to send something abroad, or all that sort of stuff. You want it from one person to another person. Snap, there's my money. Thank you very much. USDT. Great. So completely agree with you, Mohammed. Rodrigo, let's bring you into this discussion. What are the most common misconceptions about digital currencies that hinder trust and adoption? This is a very interesting question from your point of view, because, I mean, you deal with many clients under the management. So, yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yes, well, the misconceptions, there are a few, right? There are a few big ones that, from my point of view, most of them are outdated. Outdated because, for example, one of them is that with digital currencies, they only do illicit transactions, right? Or there are only frauds out there in cryptocurrencies, or that there's nothing behind it, that the market, it's really volatile. There's no control of the value of the coin, right? But in reality, for example, there are facts where those misconceptions, people can see that they're not true, right? For example, so the main one is that they're used for frauds. They're used for illicit transactions. Whereas the reality, if I'm not mistaken, the last year there was a study made by universities and also by the IFM, where in the actual monetary system, almost 50% of the transactions were used for frauds and illicit activities, whereas with digital currencies and crypto, not even 15% of them, right? Because it's not for it to be illicit. Regarding the transparency, the thing that Jordan was talking about, there's a lot of transparency. So okay, there's privacy. You don't know who was the person who did it, but there's transparency. You can track the said transaction, whereas the system nowadays you can't, because there's always the middleman, and always there's someone putting a hand in it, right? So
right.
Also, for example, another misconception is that there's nothing behind it. Well, yes, but also with physical money, there's nothing behind it. There's an idea that the money has value. There's this idea. Whereas in digital currencies, you do have technology. Okay, yes, you don't understand. It's hard to educate people for them to learn how does it work and all of the components of said technology. But it's mostly also the idea of what money really is, right? So digital currencies are here to empower again people, to give them back the power of their own money, of their own patrimony, and not control them, right? So that's also something, a misconception that has been out there since crypto started, right? So but the main reason crypto was created was for that, to give again people the power to for their finance, for their personal finances, right? And also another misconception that could be for trust is that, okay, but the market, it's really volatile, right? So in 1 second, you can have 100% gain or minus 1,000%, right? And yes, but people have to understand that in the markets, we are still in the beginning stage, right? It has to grow. There has to be regulation, not regulation in a good way, right? Not over-regulate like the actual system is over-regulated. Also because it's decentralized. We have to there has to be a decentralized system, and it's at the end of the day is people give the value to the coin, right? So yes, of course, it's a really volatile market. Also, the traditional market, it's also volatile. It's just a matter of understanding the main reason why crypto and digital currencies were created, and why they do work, right? Yes, a lot of people use them for the wrong reasons, and also that's why trust. People don't trust them anymore because of frauds. I want to get rich fast, right? But that's not the point. That's not the main idea of this, right? But it's like anything in history, right? So there has to be a term where we learn how to build it correctly, and then when the curve goes down is when a lot of cryptocurrencies and stablecoins will vanish because they're nothing, they won't work, and that's when the market and digital currencies will be stable and people will begin to trust them again, and it will be they will have a lot of importance in the economic model that it's building nowadays.
I mean, this is why. First of all, thank you for sharing that, Rodrigo. There's many misconceptions you mentioned there, but this is why stable coins are important, right? Because when it comes to USDT, USDC, I mean, pounds, dollars, etc., when it comes to the alignment between stable coins and fiat, like that's why they use the stable coins in order to have that maintenance, right? So you're not putting your money in Ethereum, for example, and it just randomly drops, and all of a sudden you said goodbye to like $5 million or something, right? So I completely agree with what you're saying, Rodrigo. Now, in terms of hindering trust and adoption, again, I would say the adoption of all this is still that people still don't understand. I mean, how you tell someone to buy Bitcoin, but people still don't understand what Bitcoin is. They don't know it's made by Satoshi. They don't know like it's worth $100,000 for one Bitcoin. If you said, oh, how much is one Bitcoin worth, or even if you said, would you like to have $1,000 or £1,000, or would you like to have one Bitcoin? Most people will say, well, I'm going to take the £1,000 and the $1,000. And then when they realize that the one Bitcoin was worth over $100,000, and that's when they're like, whoa. And they were like, oh, I'm going to take the Bitcoin now, right? But the point I'm getting at is people understand it. People don't know, right? And because they don't know, they don't understand, it's like, okay, we've got to meet them where they're at, which is why, we saw this whole thing with, I'm trying to remember what it's called. CDBC, is it? I'm trying to remember what the term is. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why banks were trying to do that, because they wanted to introduce that to everyday people so that they can adopt it, so then they can then kind of get into the digital currency world, so to speak. So now I'm a big fan of a CDBC. That's a different conversation, but overall, the whole point of the adoption and getting people involved, that's extremely important. And once people adopt it and understand it, it's like people using the internet every day. When people use the internet every day, they trust the internet because they use it all the time. They don't notice a difference. So it's the same with currency too. If you want people to use currency all the time, then it has to be adopted. And the only way to adopt that is by, like what Nadia's saying, first principles is meeting them where they're at. So anyway, Sean, let's bring us this conversation. And we do have a limited time. And also we're getting a few comments as well. I'll read them in just a second. So your question, Sean, is how can the public accessibly be educated, like Nadia was just saying, on the benefits and risks of digital currencies? So from your point of view, what are your thoughts on that? Or is there a counter argument to that? And basically what me and Nadia are saying, which is meeting them where they're at and forget about the education.
Man, that's a good question, and I actually loved Nadia's answer earlier because I do agree. Like, if we're going to try to educate people on how technology works and why you should trust it, I think you're going to lose. And I think all great CEOs that put new products into the world, they focus on the people and how it affects their lives versus the technologies that enable it. And I think if you
Right.
look at currencies, look, the realization is like if I want to send money out from the US, and I had to do this recently, and it's really, really hard, to call Chase Bank or whatever bank you use and transfer $50,000, $100,000 to another country. If you've gone through that pain point, you'll understand right away the power of digital currencies, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you start looking at use cases and how it changes your ability to do business, I think you immediately can see the value. And I think right now, I think with current transactions, if you're talking about the mainstream, if I make a mistake in banking, if I make a mistake with my credit card, there's a lot of protective measures in place to save and make people feel they are protected and they can trust
That's
the
true.
currencies that they're using. And I don't think you necessarily have that. In fact, digital currencies work too good where it happens. And then you're like, wait a minute, what mistake did I do? Did I send it to the wrong person? How do I undo this transaction? And you have to think about it. Most people make a lot of mistakes. There's a reason why we're heading towards autonomous vehicles, because eventually I think computers will make a lot less mistakes than the drivers we have on the road today. And what a crazy segue, by the way. But I think it's important that we have some of the measures we have in place with today's currencies with digital measures, and I think that's really going to allow people to feel more secure. And also, I think retailers, if you think about just the masses, if I'm going to go buy something, how do I make that transaction easier? Does Amazon start using digital currencies or make it easy to use on their platform? Do you see other companies adopting these transactions because there is value being given to their customers? And I think there's a lot of things that it's going to take time. I think the younger generation, I think, is much more comfortable. I think they're more risk. They're open to new technologies and less risk adverse in the sense that they can challenge the norm, right? And they're willing to do things. But I don't think we're there yet. And I think the misconceptions are all true. Sadly, I mean, there are fraud, there is problems, there are challenges, there's scams, and so I think as the use cases become easier to use the technology, you remove the friction and you make it every day where you can pick and choose the different type of digital currencies used. And like you said, and I'll land the plane, the biggest problem that I have with digital currencies is that you have two choices. You have stable coins that really stay, stable, or you have ones that have extreme volatility. And I think you can't run businesses. You can't run and you sell 10 hats and all of a sudden your Bitcoin drops and you're out of business. That's not going to work. A stable coin doesn't have the inflation type measures that protect you against, the US dollar and all these things will increase or decrease based on how the economy is working to protect you against some of these measures. But you don't necessarily have that with digital currencies. And I have some ideas around that, but I think those are things that we need to think about.
No, I do agree. And, it kind of makes me also think, as we head into the AI world and, these digital transactions may even potentially, go from AI to AI instead of human to human. There might be humans behind it, like human in the loop, so to speak. But, when we're talking about instant transactions with AI to AI and, our AI is going to be doing all the work. I mean, here's the other thing. We don't know what the future is going to hold. And that's why, when it comes to how can we educate the public, so to speak, on the benefits and risks. I mean, to a certain extent, we do have to do that because of the whole AI now. Now, if we were talking pre-AI, that's a bit different, but post-AI, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I was going to say, but you're missing one thing. And the challenge is how do you get access to the AI? And that's through devices. And what people are not thinking about is devices are going to have their built-in AI where you have to use their systems. You don't have the freedom of picking what AI systems that you want to use and how they can connect to anything out in the free, spatial internet, if you will. And I think that's the importance of a browser, a 3D browser. The future of the internet is going to be hundreds of millions of real-time services, whether it's payment, whether it's AI. It does not matter what that piece of software is. And you need the freedom to be able to connect to any service built by anyone, anywhere in the world, versus being locked into a platform that forces you through their AI and what they think that you want. And I think when we can have that type of freedom, that's why I'm super passionate about our browser, is that it unlocks the shackles or the platform thought process where people can now build any piece of components, whether it's a payment solution, whether it's digital currency, whether it's AI, you can now build that piece of software and anyone instantly can connect to it, just like you connect to websites. And that's I think the important layer that people are not thinking about.
And I'll add to that. That's why also Just Verified, we're working on the trust layer, which is all about verification and trust and being able to verify these models and the performance of these models and the behavior of the models to make sure it's also aligned and continuously to be aligned with also what you want to do as well when it comes to, for example, transactions from one AI to another, or when it comes to, for example, like your platform, Sean. That's why the verification side is so extremely important within that too, because you need to have verifiability in order to be able to have that trustworthiness and continuously trust these models that could potentially drift or hallucinate or do many other things. So thank you, Sean, for sharing that. And Jordan, I know we've been having a bit of discussion here, and we are going to have to keep this short, Jordan. So try and keep it short as possible if you could. But my question for you, Jordan, and this is going to be slightly a bit different, is, when we're talking about this new world we're going to, right, with AI and then cryptocurrency and then these digital transactions from one to another, from your lens and point of view, Jordan, and this is not on the questionnaire, that's this one I'm just kind of asking you as a side question. From your lens and point of view, when it comes to AI transactions, do you think, or let's say agentic AI, just for marketing terms, but when it comes to agentic AI from transaction from one to another, do you think this is going to be like the future that we're going to be living in, or could it potentially not be that from your point of view, Jordan? I think you have to unmute yourself again, Jordan. Do you need to? I'll unmute you. Don't worry.
Okay.
There you go. There you go, Jordan.
All right. Thank you. Okay. There it is, the bottom. Yeah. So in terms of like a lot of these last questions, everything that we've been talking about is in our book. So the road to mass adoption, we talk about, agentic transactions. There's an inevitable movement of all currency to digital. So the end result is, regardless of how it happens, the end result is that all currencies are going to be digital. In the near term, you're going to have sovereign nations that are going to protect their right to control the currency, right? So there's going to be a lot of friction, which is going to lead to a lack of government support, right? But then as soon as you get government support and then companies adopt, right, and start using digital of all types, and this is why we have this shift to stable coins following the Genius Act, you lay a foundation for all currencies becoming digital, which is basically what we've been seeing. And the future in the next 3 to 5 years is that stable coins, which we again predicted in our book, would be the first use case that would be adopted, on a mass basis by governments, by businesses, and then by people, is going to be in place. Now, following from that, you cannot have AI to AI transactions if you do not have a trusted digital currency, right? So you have to have that. The digital currencies that have the lowest fees are stable coins, right? For doing that. And then, but also providing certainty, as we've all talked about, right? So volatility is the enemy of business, right? Because you want to be able to predict your future. You want to be able to know. So therefore, the stable coins become the foundation. The stable coins that are the fastest, the cheapest, the easiest to use, that are adopted, at the fastest pace, are going to be the ones that are adopted and used, not just by people, but by AI. And of course, AIs carrying out transactions are in the near-term future. I mean, the protocols have just been put in place for doing it. Agentic workflows to do exactly, AI transactions, but they have to be trusted, right? They have to be a trusted workflow. Why money is different from other things is because it's the foundation for economies, right? It's the foundation for nations. And so you have to have trust in that system. And so that's what you have to get. What we're seeing is that the most trust is going into decentralized systems, right? Those are the ones that are at the end of the day going to become the de facto for everything. And governments had to get comfortable with them. They had to be regulation put in place. Businesses had to be comfortable that they could use these types of systems and not cross governments. So in our chapter, The Road to Mass Adoption, we talk about governments first accepting that currencies are going digital. Is it going to be a CBDC? Is it going to be a stable coin? That's a maturing discussion, right? And so, but the inevitable rise and the use by everyone of digital currencies is a train that is not going to be stopped. And the use of AI to do those transactions is inevitable as well.
I completely agree, Jordan. I completely agree. And sorry, Jordan, I'm going to have to jump in because we literally run out of time. We literally have only got 1 minute left. So what I'm going to say is as follows. Nadia, sorry, everyone that's watching right now and everyone that's listening or has attended, first of all, thank you for attending and watching our panel and our GatherVerse and everything. Please do go and follow each of these fantastic panelists. We've got Nadia, Mohammed, Rodrigo, Sean, and Jordan. Please give them a follow on LinkedIn, or I think LinkedIn's pretty much the main place everyone's at. So please do go and give them a follow. Follow their journey, follow what they're talking about, even ask them questions, and I'm sure they would be happy to answer. So that is it from this roundtable discussion. Thanks to each and every one of the panelists. I just want to say a special thank you to all the panelists here. And up next, we're going to be having another roundtable discussion. But for now, that is it from this roundtable discussion. So our Gather was well at GatherVerse Money Summit, and I will see you again very soon. Goodbye.
Thanks, Russell.
Cheers,
Thank you all.
everyone.
Drury. For 6 years, I had one job, to beat casinos at the game of blackjack. Not with luck or anything shady, but with math, discipline, and focus. I tracked the cards being dealt to seize on the probabilities for the cards that had yet to be dealt. I was a professional card counter, and in fact, casinos called me America's most notorious card counter. As a student of the game, playing for real money with high stakes, I quickly learned what matters. And you know what? It is not about the cards. It's about how you think under pressure. Your ability to stay aware, stay present, and act with intention no matter what the table throws your way. That's what I call card counter mindset. And you never need to step foot in a casino to benefit from it. Let's talk about awareness. Inside a casino, everything is designed to separate you from your money. How? By keeping you impulsive and entertained. The lights, the noise, the dollar signs in your eyes, they keep your attention captive at the expense of what? Of awareness. The moment you stop really paying attention, the house wins. The same is true in your work and investments. So, the first rule I learned was this: you can't control outcomes, but you can control awareness. Card counting isn't about predicting the future. It's about managing the present, tracking changes, staying calm in the noise, and making small, correct moves again and again. That is mindfulness. It's staying conscious in the chaos. It's realizing that even when the odds aren't in your favor, you still control how you respond. People ask me when I came to a table, what did I bet? $100, $1,000, $5,000? No, I stood back from the table and I watched the cards. $0. I waited for the information I needed to act. Most people think card counting is about taking big risks. It's actually the opposite. The pros that I know, we are some of the most cautious players in the room. We minimize risk relentlessly, betting small or not at all when the odds are against us, and press only when the advantage is real. Now that's what successful people do in every field. They protect their downside, they preserve their focus for when it counts. So, here's the second lesson. Don't gamble with your future. Invest in your process. Winning streaks and losing streaks, they're gonna come and go. What matters is consistency. Slow down, pay attention, one foot in front of the other. You can't force the deck. You can only play the next hand well. You might ask, what did card counting teach me about money? But better question is, what did it teach me about myself? It taught me that emotional discipline beats raw intelligence every time. Success isn't about controlling the game. It's about mastering your reaction to it as the cards come out. Every time I sat down at a table, I made a quiet deal with myself. I will not tilt. I will not chase. I will not lose my clarity to emotion. One hand after another, I will leverage the information available to make the best decision possible. That's the core of card counter mindset. Clarity over chaos, patience over panic, strategy over impulse. You can't buy that awareness. You build it, hand by hand, choice by choice, moment by moment. I didn't rely on gut feelings. I adopted a system and I put my trust in it. I had to trust the math, trust my training, trust myself to play accordingly, whether I was winning or losing. That's not luck, that's integrity. Integrity is how you sustain performance without losing yourself to the noise. So, the fourth lesson is this: the edge isn't what you gain, it's what you maintain. People think the edge is something you win, a moment, an advantage, a secret playbook. But the truth is, the edge comes from discipline over luck, trust over impulse, endurance over adrenaline. In blackjack, that meant surviving the variance. In life, it means staying clear, connected, and steady enough to keep playing your game. Card counting was never really about the cards. It was about learning to stay awake in a work environment that lulls us all to sleep, to think when others merely react, to act with purpose instead of panic. That's what I carry forward in my work today, whether it's writing, teaching, leading, creating, because every one of us sits at a table of uncertainty. Markets shift. Technology evolves, the odds change by the minute. But the leader who stays calm, focused, and mindful on the task at hand, that's the one who gains the edge. Thank you.
Retirement, redefining money to feel a life well lived. Take a deep breath. Now, picture retirement. What do you see? Maybe the seaside, maybe endless leisure. For too long, we have defined the end of our working lives as an act of withdrawal, a financial escape. The finish line is the moment we stop, turn off the engine, and survive on savings. But the world has changed. Life is longer, and the pace of change is accelerating. If you define your life by waiting for the exit, you are not living. You are just enduring. I propose we ditch the outdated model of retirement and embrace a radical, more resilient concept, retirement. Retirement isn't about stopping. It's about designing a life of clarity, unity, and peace across all seasons. It's a movement activated by a powerful central engine. And that engine, at its core, is your relationship with money. In the retirement model, money is not the goal. It is the foundation of finance, one of the three structural pillars upon which a life well lived is built. If you look at your life as a magnificent temple, this financial pillar is the non-negotiable bedrock. And what does a resilient financial foundation look like? It's not a dollar amount. It's about three essential outcomes: resilience, freedom, and choice. Resilient, so you can thrive through disruption, not fear it. Freedom, so your actions are not dictated by scarcity. and choice. Because the ultimate luxury in life is the ability to say yes to opportunity and no to obligation. When we are financially sound, we are not just protected against volatility, we are empowered to think big. We shift from how will I survive to how will I contribute. This shift is crucial because true retirement is fundamentally about contribution, not consumption. The structure, the pillars, they need power. This brings us to the central engine, performance. In retirement, performance is the strongest factor for success. It's the activator and validator of all the other aspects of your life. This is where money re-enters the conversation, not as a passive pile of saving, but as fuel for your action. Money stops being a source of anxiety and becomes an engine of strategic integration. Retirement is not a status you reach, it's an identity you claim. You become the retirement architect. Your money, your financial foundation is the power source that buys you the most valuable commodity in the 21st century. Time to perform on purpose. So, my challenge to you is this. Stop designing your life for the finishing line. Stop planning for withdrawal. Start building your financial foundation today so you can fire up your central engine of performance tomorrow. Thank you.
And welcome, everyone. We're so happy to have you here with us. And we are in the middle of GatherVerse Money Summit, day one. We have had such an incredible and powerful roundtable discussion, let alone with the follow-up from a few speakers that have come to join us. And we are preparing it backstage right now for more roundtable discussion. Russell, how are you?
I'm good. What a great first roundtable discussion. Really excited about the discussions of stablecoins and crypto and digital currency. It's been a great first discussion so far.
So how are we defining? So I really enjoyed the roundtable that you just had with Sean and Naja and Jordan and so many other different people, Muhammad and what have you. How are we quantifying? What would you say to summarize everything that you just heard? I know some things take longer time to breathe and to ponder and consider, but if you could put a salient out there, what would that be when it comes under the banner of trust at the intersection of technology? There was a lot that was just unpacked.
Yeah, I think there's a bottom line to this. And I think the bottom line is that in order for anything to be trustworthy or to be trusted, so to speak, that it has to be verified and verifiable. It also has to be certified too, and it also has to be earned, the trust, rather than just being freely given, especially as we go into the age of AI and autonomous agents, and being able to do anything they want to do, drifting, hallucinations, toxicity, manipulation. I mean, we can go on and on and on about what the models can potentially do. But I think, the core structure and the bottom line to this is there has to be verification. There has to be a way in which trust can be earned. And also fundamentally is, when it comes to credibility and when it comes to transparency and accountability, these are all core components as well to this that needs to be in place as well. So
what do you think about the idea of when we talk about, and the sentiment's been brought up numerous times here at GatherVerse, and it's been said again, we start talking about the need for technologists to become educators, to give us a sense of a better understanding, as what Naja was expressing about the depths of Web3, and you and her went back and forth on that, which I appreciated immensely, audience, because I get the sense as we as technologists, we get so deep, I think, in the reservoir of our own understanding, that we tend to leave so many people behind that simply do not operate within these verticals that we play in. And it seems to me there's a bit of selfishness in it, because we need to make transparent to light what it is that we're innovating. And I think that's where the gap barrier of trust comes in.
Yeah, and I believe also there's a couple other gaps as well within this, but I think fundamentally is we do have to meet people where they're at as well, for sure. But I also think that in order to meet people where they're at, also it needs to be easy, understandable. If it's not accessible, if it's not easy to understand, if it's not human centric and aligned with human values, then at the end of the day you can do whatever you want. If it doesn't align, it doesn't align. So and that's why I think verification is so important, which people don't really speak about or even think of. And I think for everyday people that are using AI or any sort of digital currency, then I want to make sure that my transaction or my money went from one person to another, and that's been verified that it has been transacted, so to speak. So and that's where the underlying technology of blockchain immutability comes into this too. And also when it comes to stable coins, which you spoke about, crypto, etc. I see crypto more as like shares. It's something that you invest in and it goes up and down in value. And then stable coins is kind of more the fiat, so to speak, of our world. So that's kind of like what I see when it comes to the digital currency side. But those are just my thoughts on that. So
I would agree with you, especially when it comes to alignment. We talk about that a lot in AI, don't we? About alignment with whose values? That's the alignment problem. Whose values does AI that's been developed, these small foundational models, these large language transformers, if you will, whose values are they aligning with? And so I would think that people would want to have a better understanding of that. Why is that so critically important? Is because not every model has your interest and best interest at heart, because it doesn't share your cultural understanding and intercultural development. And so when we start to think about that, I think it leads to orders of magnitude of the necessity for universal verification, so that we could bring transparency to the type of models that we're interacting with, those that we have a sense of what they do, not just capability and benchmarks, but in terms of their ethical grounding and ground truth and all the different things that we don't understand, and then let alone the black box of not understanding. Interpretability is huge. And if we don't have a better sense on how these models think and how they configure their information within their own internal black box, if we don't make that black box into the glass box, I think we have a bigger problem on our hand when it comes to adoption and development, thus the need for universal verification.
100%. And I definitely think transparency is extremely important. And I definitely think the glass box is also extremely important too. And just think about like how these AI models are going to be in the future. I mean, we've seen Gemini 3, drop recently. We've had Claude, they've dropped recently. Now we're looking at DeepSeek. All these latest models coming out, and they're getting smarter and better every day as we talk, and we're here now, and we need to be able to have a way in which we can monitor them, be able to see what they're doing, be able to understand them, but also be able to verify them in terms of how they behave and what they do on a daily basis and what they say, and also how they perform too. Are they reliable? Are they very manipulative? Do they trick other AIs even potentially? Could another AI agent trick another AI agent? These are all scenarios which we aren't thinking about when it comes to the practicality of verification and the trust side. And that's why I'm saying, when it comes to, if I guess you want to call it something trustworthy, it's like, okay, how is that trustworthy? And there's many components when it comes to how that's trustworthy. And I think when it comes to transparency, accountability, when we're talking about all these different components that come together to add to the trustworthiness in total, there's many components to it. And this is what people kind of, I guess, maybe forget about, is like, if I believe in something, or if I want to say something is truthful and trustworthy, then I have to know how it's trustworthy, and that's the underlying factor which we're missing. So,
yeah, don't tell me that you're trustworthy. Show me, right? And so I think
exactly,
we're very much need to be in a show me state when it comes to these modern innovations. Russell, quick as the time comes, the quick as it goes. Thank you so much, and I'll meet you back on stage. And for next, everyone, we have an incredible roundtable discussion hosted by Lynn Jital, and we're very happy to have this discussion on funding innovation in an AI economy. That is, there's a lot with that. We have an incredible roster of different speakers from really, literally around the world that are coming to be able to help scale of understanding. May our gather be well.
Hello and greetings. Welcome to the second roundtable panel of the GatherVerse Money Summit. And I'm very grateful to the fireside chat with Russell and Christopher, and of course, the previous panel that was here on trust. And I believe this panel is going to take it a little bit notch higher. And we're going to talk about funding innovation in an AI economy. I believe in this panel, we're going to unpack where the capital is going. Where is the world investing currently? And before we even deep dive, I would want to welcome our dear panelists. I want them to introduce themselves, tell us who you are, and let's do it quite briefly. I will start with you, Tina, and then we will pass it all over and conclude the introductions with you, Dr. Venu. But as for now, Tina, we want to hear your voice.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Tina Fleming. I'm the VP of AI Strategy at Avenue Z.
Wow, that was brief. We welcome you. And Camila Sanders, nice to see you again. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Yes, Camila Sanders, CEO of Greater Than Equal, and I help social impact leaders drive systemic change through strategy consulting.
You're welcome back. We love seeing you here. Dr. Satish, this is not your first time, but we welcome you anyway. Thank you for coming back again. Tell us who you are.
So myself, I am Dr. Satish, and I'm currently working as a business testing lead for Cigna Healthcare client. And in parallel, I'm doing research on AI, machine learning, and then related to healthcare. So I have several patents, and currently I'm working on improving my profile.
Wow, we welcome you once again. Dr. Venu, over to you. Your mic, please. Kindly unmute. Kindly unmute. All right, as he figures that out, let's go to you. Key Jones, this is not your first time as well. Happy to see you again. Tell us who you are.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Key. I am the founder and the CEO of Reset, which is an organization that helps women and men overcome and defeat trauma.
Interesting. And thank you for coming. Dr. Venu, over to you again.
Yeah, good day, all the panel members and you also. I am driving that, AI governance and literacy program across the globe. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you for coming once again. We love seeing you. And I'll just begin this roundtable with a few interesting facts that I recently came out with. It's the year 2025, and over half of the global venture funding has gone to AI platforms and infrastructure. Half of the ventures, we're talking about over $192 billion. And there's also an interesting figure here that most of the startups that are doing anything to do with AI have gained their unicorn status. That looks like a good news. And there's so much that has happened 2025, and we're looking forward to more of these coming next year. But let's just discuss, where's this money going to, and what does it mean to be a founder in this era of AI? And I'll go to my first question, and I will address you, Tina. I'll bring you on this. Which human skill is becoming the most and the new capital for foundation in an AI-driven world? Over to you, Tina.
Thank you. What we have really found through our own investments in our AI innovation is that for this way of moving forward, strategic judgment really is that key thing, that thing that is going to set you apart from this AI world that we're living in now. The AI can give you options, but it's not going to give you that conviction. And I think that is that magic ingredient that humans still bring and will continue to bring. So if you have that creativity, strategic thinking, that's going to be where you need to root yourself as a founder.
Creative, strategic thinking. Camilla, I see you agreeing to this. Do you have a different take on that, or what do you have to add on that?
Yeah, I completely agree. It really is the creativity for me, and that's one word to sum it up. But it's about that passion. Like if you think about technology, AI is creating from the past. It can't necessarily come up with what humans can come up with. That passion to solve the problem, the passion, the values that you bring, how you were raised, the world around you, like everything that shaped you. You bring soul, you bring that passion to the project. And so that is something that cannot be replaced, because AI is not going to bring that soul and that passion toward really getting to the root of the problem that you're solving and really making that impact that you want to. And that's really something that's going to sustain you. That creativity and that passion is going to sustain you through the process of seeing it through and seeing the impact that you bring.
Yes, absolutely. I do agree on that. And I have a follow-up to what it means to be creative in this era of AI. If AI can create everything that we can imagine, if AI can even be more creative and bring the past, combine it with the present, and bring in the future when it comes to creativity, what are we really talking here about creativity? Is there a new level of creativity that humans have to unveil, or what do we see when it comes to creativity? Anyone can answer that or share your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll just add, like, I don't think that AI can be as creative as humans can, because we're so complex, and we bring this new creativity and innovation to things. AI is just taking the data that it has from the past, from various creatives, and like I mentioned, like it doesn't really have a soul. Like you can't see that when you're communicating that creativity. So we may be, as creatives, may be very passionate about a particular thing, and that emotion shows in our work and everything that we do. That is something intangible that we can't even describe, but that's not something that AI has. And so I think that we are just more creative than AI could ever be.
I'd like to add to that as well. Just on the note of what AI has access to is what it synthesizes and gives back to you. So when you think of a human and that unique worldview and life experiences and all of that, is going to be very specific to them, and that's how they interpret things and input and output. Whereas AI is just a giant pot of a bunch of different ideas that have been in the past, as you said. So,
yes, that is a very strong build up through that. And thank you so much for sharing that, Tina, as well as Camila. This drags me to our next question, and I'm coming to you, Dr. Satish and Key as well. What is the concept of responsible scaling in an AI-driven era? As I mentioned, we have so many AI startups gaining the unicorn status. We've seen companies like OpenAI being funded over $40 billion with such amount of money. What does responsible scaling in an AI-driven world really mean? Dr. Satish, share your thoughts.
Yeah, sure. So one thing I can say, like in AI, right, we do have different kind of models all over ChatGPT or whatever the things that we have API models, different models. So one thing we need to make sure, whatever the model that we are doing, right, we need to make sure the accuracy is very important, and we need to build in such a way that whatever the data governance, right, should be done, like because huge volume of data and deployment has been doing nowadays, right? We need to make sure we should align whatever the clients that are being using AI, right? The data governance should be there, and we need to make sure we should implement some kind of ethical reviews at every stage. Like we need to create certain amount of stages where for each stage we need to evaluate the performance, accuracy and precision as well, and also we need to monitor the bias or misuse, because we need to know like who are misusing and who are biased as well. That way we can have the accuracy as well, and we need to make sure we should have some kind of transparent communication as well between the end user and the partners who are implementing as well. With this kind of thing, we need to balance the market speed as well, because day by day we can see the market is growing up very rapidly. We need to make sure whatever the things that we are doing, right, it should be there for long term, not very short term, whatever the things we are doing.
I totally agree, and thank you for building up on the fact about transparency. And I believe the previous panel covered that quite well, and you sharing that only makes more sense. Key Jones, do you have something to add to this, as well as Dr. Venue? But I want to come to you, Key.
Oh yeah, sure. In my opinion, responsible scaling means growing at the speed of wisdom, not hype, not trying to keep up with what the next founder is doing. You worry about what's going on in your business. Be smart about the decisions that you're making in your business. And it's also about being intentional about the data ethics, of course, and transparency, like he just said. Also the cultural impact, and let's not leave out the mental well-being as you expand. So it means designing a technology that won't harm other communities. Of course, it won't overwhelm your users, nor will it exploit the workers either. So scaling responsibly is going to ensure that your innovation grows without compromising trust, equity, or humanity. We never want that to happen.
Yes, you know, Kiki, just hold on that thought. There's something you said. Scaling is growing at the speed of wisdom. What is wisdom to you? I'm just curious. I want to find out.
Wisdom is being smart and making decisions within your business. You know, you don't want to make the wrong moves, and you definitely don't want to, again, as I said earlier, worry about what the next founder is doing in their business. So don't try to keep up with the hype.
All right. Don't try to keep up with the hype. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really loved what you said. Dr. Venue, what is responsible scaling to you? Kindly unmute. All right. As we figure that out, maybe we can drag it to the next panel.
Yeah, infrastructure should be there. And next comes the skill development. Because AI implementation, the technology with the tools has been developed. Now we have to go on the execution mode to give the benefit for the organizations. The organization, what they have been invested, the companies looking in the business is that return on investment. So for that, the manpower development, skill development is important. Next
Yes.
comes the data models development. Because data model development, it differs from the domain to domain. So that is the way the responsible scaling is required. Another is that regulations, AI regulations is important to scaling. And the last factor comes that sector specification models need to be developed, like healthcare, manufacturing, retail. So that is the way it comes. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Excellent. Well highlighted. And we're going to come to regulation. I believe that's a topic that carries its own weight. But let me just go to the next questions, and I'm coming to you, Tina, as well. How do we invest in ideas that benefit people while remaining profitable?
So I think this one is actually an easy thing to do. I think that if you are investing in your people are going to be taking care of your clients stay happy, they stay on. And for us, the way that we've been doing this is we are really trying to enable our employees to innovate within their expertise. So when we talk about agentic workflows and how do we change the way that we work, we're getting those ideas from the team, and they're going to be the most experts in that particular field. So they're going to ensure that the quality is there, and it's going to let us take those next steps to make it more profitable without sacrificing in the people and also that quality.
Yes, that's a very good highlight. And I have a follow-up to that. When we're talking about investing in people, and the current data that I shared earlier is that a majority of the funding, actually, when it comes to AI, is going to infrastructure. It's going to build foundational models. It's going to build the next data center, right? So how do we just bring that balance to invest more in people? Tina, you're doing that in your company. How can other leaders learn as well? And what message do you have for the world that is looking forward to invest more in the infrastructure than the people?
If you're looking to invest more in the infrastructure rather than the people, you're going to have an adoption problem and you're going to have a deployment problem. So yes. For us, literacy comes first always. You need to educate everyone. And if you are spending all of that in the infrastructure, you want it to be successful and not have your AI project fail, you do need that literacy and rollout plan.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious, does anyone has something to add on that? He or Camila or Dr. Benny, does anyone has to add something on that?
Sure, I can add to it, and it's really almost reiterating when you are talking about benefiting people. I mean, profit is really about supply and demand, right? I mean, that's kind of the bottom line to it. But I think what Tina's talking about is co-developing the solutions with the people. So not just developing a solution, but developing it with the people that have the problem. And if you have a large enough problem and you're developing it with the people that actually have the problem, then that is going to meet that adoption that Tina just mentioned, right? They're going to want to adopt the solution that they helped to develop, and they're going to want to use the solution that they have helped to develop. So when you do that, you are going to bring in profits naturally because the supply and the demand is going to be there. So you can't have profit when you put people first.
Yes, strong. I concur with that. And that really leads me to the next question, and I'm coming to you, Dr. Satish, as well as Dr. Venue. How can we assess readiness when industries are evolving more rapidly than the due diligence process? I think that this is where the place of regulation comes in. But Satish, please tell us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, sure. Like due to this more kind of revolution nowadays, right? What we need to do, as per my understanding, is we need to create some kind of short pilots to validate instead of long studies. So what we can do is we can do some kind of short pilots where we can validate based on assumptions, whatever we have as per the project, right? We need to create short pilots instead of long ways. That way we will save much more money. Using the short pilot, we'll get to know how the market trend is, how our project is, and then we can go from there. And also, whatever the team we are forming, right, the team should be more adaptable and they should have more velocity as well compared to the people in the market. And other than that, we need to join different kinds of export networks as well, like GatherVerse, where we'll have more knowledge and we can see what has been evolving outside market, because we don't know what is happening nowadays outside, right? So we need to join specific set of networks and gathering events as well. That way we will get to know, like, whatever the project we are doing, right, if there is any certain gap or there, or sometimes there might be some knowledge gap as well, where if we attend these kind of events, right, we will get to know quickly so that we will learn accordingly. And we should judge the founder as well. Because of this fast changes, right, we need to judge the founder and act accordingly faster.
Important, very important. And just to echo what he said, that is why we have gatherings like this ones, to have leaders like Tina, Camila, Dr. Satish, Key, Dr. Venu, and everyone who joins in as a speaker to share knowledge and also to make just knowledge accessible. So I really echo with what you said. Dr. Venu, this is where regulation comes in. Do you have another aspect to this? Please share. Kindly unmute.
Addition to Dr. Satish, because he has been narrated in the process of execution. But when we want industries, evolution starts from the funding, because the funding is required. Funding is two types. One is the mixed, one is the public and private funding. And also that government has to take the initiative, grants and subsidies, and the national mission fundings are there, because this is the government has to be utilize the technology in the governance. And in this sector, to develop infra, skill development and data models and regulations and sector specific research oriented applications. There are big 10 investors are there across the globe, because the funding comes. One is the Index Venture. They have been invested $1.5 billion for the AI infrastructure. Next is that Greylock Partners. They have been invested almost $800 million for the infrastructure. Because without infrastructure, the process cannot be implemented in the industry adoption, and we cannot take the benefit of the technology. And Microsoft, they invested $14 billion. Google invested $2 billion, and SoftBank invested $40 billion.
Yes.
Another players are there, Tigger Global. They invested $4 billion. And Lightspeed, they invested $4 billion. Anderson, $4 billion. So this is the huge capital is required when we are moving from digital to artificial intelligence here, because a lot of data servers and data centers and hardware need to be in place. So this leads to be automation. Thank you.
All right. And thank you for sharing those statistics. Very, very important. Let's just let's shift our focus right now. And I'm coming to you, Key Jones. What funding gaps appear when markets rely heavily on automation?
This is a good one. So audience, if you're listening, this is a good one. And I think those gaps appear in three main places. And one would be the human development spot. That would be your soft skills, your mental health, and workforce transition tools. Another area that shows up in, of course, is in ethical oversight. And that would be your AI safety, governance, and your bias mitigation remain unfunded. And last but not least, it also shows up in your inclusive innovation, where founders from underserved communities, they lose the visibility because of the algorithms. They reward those that are already advantage. So automation without equity, that widens the gap. So we must intentionally fund the human side of tech at all times.
Yes, and just a follow up to that with something interesting that I also found out is majority of the funding and the infrastructure majorly comes from China and the USA. So I'm wondering where the rest of the continents, where is Asia?
Right.
Sorry, not Asia. Where is South America? Where is Africa? Where is Middle East? So how do we even look at that from a global lens and bridge that kind of infrastructure gap or funding gap?
I would say the same. It shows up in all those same places in the human development, the ethical oversight, and of course the inclusive innovation.
Yes. All right. Does anyone want to chime in on that? Camila, do you have a follow up to that, or do you have something to say on that?
I can add that I think when you're talking about the funding gaps and automation, we have to think about some of the intangible aspects. Some things that were mentioned, like building trust and that human relationship that happens. That automation is not necessarily a bad thing, but you have to think about the trust that happens when you're actually having that human to human interaction, and when you're building things with humans. Sometimes we have to take a step back and we have to do things that are not so quick and not so easy, to make sure that we keep humans in the center of it.
Of course, humanity will always be the center of this. And this is just a reminder to everyone who is building, please keep humanity at the center of what you are doing. And this leads me to the next question. And I want to hear from each and every one of you. And I will start with you, Tina, as well. Who protects founders when AI tools create even uneven power dynamic with investors, right? We're seeing now investors are directly investing on AI and not with the founders who are creating it. So what protects founders in this kind of scenario?
What protects founders in this kind of scenario, I think, really comes down to the preparation that you put yourself through in order to establish your mission, your values, what goals you have, and just creating that clarity for yourself. Because when you have those really clear terms, you know where you stand, you know what lines you won't cross. I think that's the best protection that you can do for yourself. It helps make you just harder to push off course when you do get all of those pressures to innovate, pressures for speed. And I think that is really what protects founders in these kind of circumstances.
Amazing. That's a very, very interesting perspective there. And Camila, what is your take on that? What protects founders in this era?
Yeah, I think that, what would be great in an almost perfect world would be that transparency with investors. Like, what are they investing in? How are they investing? How are they selecting? How much money? Like, all those information that would be helpful for a founder. But I agree that it is about that ecosystem that you have around you as a founder. How are you educating yourself? What tools are you using? Who are you surrounding yourself with, whether that's through an accelerator program or through your own community, so that you can learn and you can do even more when you are a founder and seeking an investor.
That's right. That is strongly expressed. When I think about communities, I think it's dangerous for any founder to be alone at this particular point. You have to have a community around you, a community like GatherVerse, or so many other founders community where you can really start building relationships with investors and just put your product out there. Dr. Satish, what is your take on this? What protects founders for you?
So who protects? I can say, like, we can create some kind of educational programs as well, where we can teach founders as well, to make sure whatever the negotiations that needs to be done on their AI powered things, right, it will be done accordingly. And then we need to create some kind of standard reports as well, where we can see like how AI can be used in the investment decisions as well, because it's hard for us to keep on investing money and money again and again. So we need to have some kind of strategically, some kind of reports to validate on a monthly basis or a weekly basis, based on their availability, to see how they can invest accordingly. And then the other thing I can say, whatever the term sheets, right? That is very important, because currently, based on the time sheets, all the stocks currently, right, they are rising up or declining, right? So we need to make sure the term sheet should be positive rather than going to negative.
Very solid, interesting
Mhm.
views. And Kay, let me just drag that right to you as you agree so much with him. Please chime in on that.
Yes, I think as founders, we just need transparent AI evaluation standards. You know, we need the legal safeguards around our data ownership, community-driven oversight boards, ethical investment frameworks, first of all, because investors with unchecked AI, they can overpower the early stages of founders. So we need those systems that ensure that tech doesn't become just another tool of exploitation, but that bridge toward collective prosperity.
Definitely. I love the term collective prosperity for all. Dr. Venu, how do we protect founders? Tell us from your.
Because already there have been almost 170 AI tools are available, but
Interesting.
there is no proper integration with the business applications. See, for example, if you take Microsoft, there is a Word document is there, Excel is there, and PPT is there. But we have 170 tools. But if you go to the market or industry, the top management or manpower don't know that which tool is going to replace Word document, which tool is going to replace that Excel sheet, which tool is going to supplement the PowerPoint. See, still there is a lot of skill upgradation is required in the industry until unless we don't adopt and utilize, and the revenue generation is not started, the technology is no more useful for the business segment, because business leaders want the revenue with the technology. If technology is very high and effective, there is no revenue is there, ROI, return on investment. For them is technology is no more useful there.
All right. Thank you for highlighting that and closing us with such a remarkable, strong foundation to what we can do on that. This brings me also to just the next question, and I'm coming to you, Tina, and anyone who wants to chime in on this. What do you think are the most promising yet underfunded areas of innovation in AI? What's your take, Tina? What's the most underfunded, you think?
So my take on this comes more from an AI strategy enablement within our own company. But what I see as the most promising but underfunded or under prioritized is that connective tissue. Everyone focuses on the infrastructure, like we previously said, but no one's really thinking about the change management that goes into rolling something like that out. And that's really the key thing that's going to make it successful. I think that you really need to invest in those areas when you're talking about your workforce enablement, the data quality and governance, the workflow design. All of those pieces are not successful on their own. You really need to bind all of those together for a successful deployment. So I would say, as far as the prioritization of areas that are going to be the most successful, that's where you should focus.
I hear you, Tina. That is strongly expressed. Camilo, what do you think is the most underfunded areas?
I think it's social impact and social innovators. And the reason why they're underfunded is because they're not necessarily going to become unicorns, right? They may become unicorns for impact, but not necessarily for profit in the definition that we have of unicorns, even though they can be profitable. And so if you're funding systems change, it also takes a longer time, a longer runway than some of these automated solutions. But what's missing is really funding that impact and funding social innovators that are making systemic impact, but don't fit into the typical paradigm of what's typically funded.
Social impact. I have a follow-up on that. I'm just curious, when you talked about social impact and versus automation, Do you think it's the responsibility for companies to carry on social impact? Is it the government's responsibility? Is it everyone's responsibility? Who is responsible for social impact if companies are focusing on profits?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing now is it is multi-stakeholder. It's not just one innovator. It's innovators working with governments, working with private sector, working with nonprofits, working with the community. It's all of us working together to achieve a common goal. It's not just on the backs of one particular group of people. So I think we all take responsibility. And honestly, like the people that are listening, it's our responsibility. It's the responsibility of the people on the panel. It's our responsibility to kind of break down those barriers and start to work across sectors and across categories, just so that we can achieve that impact together, whether that's innovative funding or that's just sharing innovative ideals that will help nonprofits be profitable, those types of things, and working together. I think it's everyone's responsibility.
Yes, and that's a very powerful call to action. So if you're watching, wherever you're watching us from, this is a collective responsibility. Social impact is for me and you. Do something, share what you've learned here today, and that's part of social impact. Dr. Satish, over to you. What do you think is the most underfunded area in innovation?
So I am thinking like AI for agriculture. So it is one of the most underfunded areas. Nowadays, more people are more inclined towards technology and other areas, right? But
Yes.
In agriculture nowadays, I don't think it is one of the underfunded areas, because we cannot live without food, but we can live with technology, right?
Yes.
So I'm thinking agriculture is one of the most underrated and doesn't have much innovations.
And the most interesting part that you talked about agriculture, just a reminder, we're having a food summit, and these are the things we're going to address, Dr. Satish. I hope you'll be there for the food summit. We're going to be talking about food and technology. We cannot live without food, but we cannot live without food, but we can definitely live without technology. But, that's food. We will drag that thread over to the food summit just on that day. And Key Jones, what is your take on this?
I think some of the most underserved areas would be like youth AI education pipelines, especially in the Black and Brown communities. I would also say AI mental wellness and trauma-informed technologies. Also AI for accessibility and neurodivergent learners. And they don't always get the fastest return on investment. So that's why they're always overlooked. Yet they have a real foundation for a thriving, equitable AI future, in my opinion.
Yes, I believe that is it's something that needs to really be worked on, right? That's something that we cannot ignore, but it's something that we keep advocating. And also, these communities also have to take also responsibility.
Right.
See, what can we do by ourselves? What can we build? I want to give an example of here in Africa. Are there solutions that are unique to us that we can build with AI? Do we have to wait for someone in China or someone in maybe in Europe or in America to bring us the solution? No, it's up to us to identify this is our problem. This is AI. This is what we have, and this is what we can work on. So it's also a call to action for everyone. And thank you for highlighting that. Dr. Venu, what do you have to say on this? What is the most underfunded area? Kindly unmute. We can't hear you.
We cannot hear you, Dr. Venu.
All right. As he comes back, he's gonna chime in as well. I want us to go to the next question. What investment strategies are the most effective for funding AI startups and projects? Tina, over again to you. I think you're my first today, so tell us.
I'm the first. I'll actually pass on this one if someone else wants to take this.
Yes. Dr. Satish, I see you nodding to this. I feel like you want to take this up, and someone who else.
Yeah, I can take this up.
Yes.
So you're asking what are the investment strategies, right? that are most efficiently for the AI startups, right? So I can say, like, so we need to invest very early in a certain set of data sets, because so some of the data sets, right, we won't know, like we cannot predict, right? So some things which we don't know.
Yes.
So whatever not in market, right, we need to make sure we should invest early, and then we need to prioritize whatever the infrastructure or any daily products are there, right? So any daily products nowadays, mostly people are using specifically on the UI only products, but rather than those, we need to prioritize certain infrastructure things as well, where the projects are used on the daily basis as well. And we, if there are any expertise team is there, right, we need to make sure we should back those teams up, because recently we saw, right, the Meta acquired so many AI folks, and with huge amount of money, right? So we need to make sure what are the teams that we are working, right? So
Yes.
we should engage them in everything. In we should use their expertise on our thing as well, because some people in market, what they think, like they will know and they won't talk to others. That's how most of the people are. But we need to make sure we need to work with everyone accordingly, and whatever the distribution that is happening for every project, right, we need to strategize accordingly. And whatever the product we are building, it should diversify compared to other products in market.
All right. Okay. That was a very strong point. Dr. Venu, you're back. I'm sure your audio is now quite good, and we were at the most underfunded areas. I wanted to hear your voice on that. What did you have to share?
In the startups, they need to do underfunded areas of the innovation.
Yes.
Yeah. Underfunded innovation is that, mostly manufacturing is lacking, because the digital twins, the concept is coming, that is where they need to be focus areas in the innovation area. Most of the now segment is more focused on healthcare. That is the highest priority, but manufacturing is taken the second seat. So manufacturing needs to be improved in the innovation sector.
All right. Manufacturing. When we're talking about manufacturing, is it solely based on chips? Because that's the trending. That's one of the most funded areas right now, the manufacturing of chips. And so, what type of manufacturing are we looking at here?
Manufacturing in the sense, for example, if you take food and beverage, because food and beverage industry is still not yet automated. It is a completely 90% is manual intervention is there. The quality testing and processing and the shelf life and logistics. A lot of areas needs to be, warehouse management. These are the areas needs to be improved.
Yes, I absolutely concur with that. And just to go to the next question, we wanted to hear your voice on the underfunded areas, and we were at what investment strategies are the most effective for finding AI startups and projects. Camila, do you have something to chime in on this topic?
Yeah, I was thinking about what you said about innovation coming from all parts of the globe, and also what Dr. Satish said about investing early. And I think that one of the things that we don't see is we have a lot of people with great ideas, but they are not able to get those ideas off the ground because they don't have the resources. And I'm not just talking about funding, I'm talking about that ecosystem that is around them, whether that is the connections or that is the programs that help to drive entrepreneurship and startups. And so one of the strategies that needs to be had is to make sure that we're having a diverse set of people building or organizations building AI solutions and putting the resources in the places that are having the issues. I think, Tina, maybe you're the one that said this too. It's like, actually, are there people that are the people that are providing the solutions? Do they have the resources to actually be a startup and to grow? And one of the things that I'm also hearing with startups is that a lot of times they get this influx of capital, but then they grow, but nobody talks about that. Once you grow, you have a new set of issues, right? And so who is
Yes.
there to hold their hand when, okay, you got this money, you grew, you're past the stage, but then we start to see people fail or don't get to the next stage that they need to get to because they don't have the next set of connections. They don't have the education, leadership, the things that are required at that next growth stage, whatever that next growth stage is. So it really is about putting the resources around and developing that ecosystem around a diverse set of people and thinking all the way through the process of growth of a startup.
Definitely. I'm also thinking, just as we're still on this topic, when it comes to effective strategies, Camilla, you said something to do with communities coming together. I'm also curious, how do we bring to visibility these startup projects, right? Apart from hackathons, we know maybe pitch sessions where founders pitch. What other ways do we bring startups and projects to the larger scope, especially those in underserved communities? How do we bring them to the limelight? And Key Jones, this is where I bring you in. You can tell us what are the most effective strategies, and perhaps you can answer that. Yes, Key, please unmute. You're muted. Can you mute?
Okay, I'm sorry. It's like I couldn't get to the mute button. Can you repeat your question for me, please?
What investment strategies are most effective for finding AI startup projects, and how can we bring this project into visibility to the global light, to the global stage?
Well, I did hear what you said about hackathons, and that was the first thing I was going to say. So you just kind of took that. You took that thought clean out of my head.
Yes.
But that's one way, and I would say like collaborative investment ecosystems such as schools, nonprofits, and corporations could be one way. And just smart investors, they can fund both innovation and integrity. And microfunds targeting marginalized founders. That's a way as well. So that's the only thing I could think of off the top of my head at the moment.
Yes, and that is valid. I totally believe that's one of the ways forward. And this brings me to the next question, and I'm going to bring each and every one of you. I know most of us are not policymakers, but you can just tell us what you just think, all right? How can policymakers create a responsible environment that encourages investment in AI? Again, Tina, over to you.
Thank you. So for us, what's really important is that you can't govern what you don't understand. So with all of these new changes, this is the new technology. If someone was acting like an expert in it early on, then that trust isn't really there. I think it's one of those things you have to bring the team with you, and making sure that you do have that literacy layer. But one of the biggest issues with policy, no matter if we're talking about AI or elsewhere, is that a lot of the time the policymakers are not the ones who are affected by the policy, or they don't understand fully the implications of what things mean that go into that policy. So I think starting there, the ambiguity of it all will actually slow the innovation.
Yes, Tina, just a follow up. Do you think we should have people who educate policymakers? Should we have like a group of or a set of people who just educate policymakers on this thing?
Yeah, lobbyists. I think that's a huge, that's community groups coming together to speak up about how it's affecting them. I think that there's a lot that can be done. And I myself have been one of those people who do go speak to the people who make policy in my area. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you. It's actually lovely to have you sharing that from your angle of a policy maker. Camila, what is your take on this? What should we do with policy makers?
Yeah, I love the idea of having a community advisory group. So the policymakers are actually listening to the community, a diverse set of community stakeholders. I think that's great. As far as like policy goes, making sure that the entire system is transparent, right, and communicative in the process. And then also, I think that there should be some type of requirement for inclusive practices, whether that is inclusive data sets, whether that's inclusivity and who's building the AI or whatever that project is. There needs to be that, and then there also needs to be a focus on social impact. How are you giving back? You're not just creating something to create it, but how is this impacting the community and everyday citizens as a whole? And that's where that community advisory groups come in, is to not only educate the community, but also so that they can give feedback. And so it's a feedback loop and not just a one-way situation that's happening when we're talking about creation and AI.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Excellent remarks there. Dr. Satish, how can policymakers create a responsible environment that creates investments, encourages investments? Yeah.
So we need to make certain standards for every investment, for every model. Like the standards, I can say, like whatever the auditing, right? So we need to make sure the audit should happen to see what is happening, what's going on, what are the impacts that are coming up, and we need to create some kind of reporting as well to see, like if you are in profits or losses, or are we equal on the investments or those kind of things. And we need to see like if any kind of tax incentives as well will come for the research and development as well. And whatever the regularities are there, right, we need to streamline for the deployments, like whatever the AI deployments that are going up, right? So different projects are going up. So we need to make sure we should align as per the regulatory, because if something mess ups during the AI deployment, during the production, eventually the entire company will fail.
That's right. I
So
hear you.
yeah, so need to make sure as per the standards, or if any healthcare is there, we need to, as per the HIPAA gateway or whatever the standards are there, right? So we need to do it accordingly. And then we can create some kind of private and public partnerships as well for high risk projects. If there is a high risk project, then we need to make some kind of partnership with like-minded people. That way it will be high risk, and it will be low risk for everyone.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. And I hear you as well. Dr. Venu, quickly, as our time is almost to an end, please share what can policymakers do?
Because venture capitalists needs to be encouraged in the AI governance and the risk factors and the security. These three parameters will encourage investors.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that was so brief. Thank you for sharing that. Hey, Jones, what is your take? What is the
Absolutely.
responsibility?
Absolutely. I think that policymakers should build guardrails, not roadblocks. Always try to establish clear AI safety and governance frameworks, and fund AI education pipelines, most definitely. They should also try providing grants for ethical AI startups. That would be great. Protect user privacy and community safety, because we all know when policy leads with clarity and compassion, innovation will thrive.
All right. That's a very powerful way to conclude, but I just have one more question to take away just before our time ends. What would you say to any founder who's watching and is building something on AI or building something just impacts the community? Just one person who wants to say something to founders out here. Just one person. Who would that be? All right, Tina, I see you leaning in. Come on, tell us.
I would say to a founder who is in this world that we're all in, don't get hooked on one single model. Make sure whatever you're building is model agnostic, that it's flexible, and that, like I said earlier, you have that connective tissue so that you make sure that it's successful.
Excellent. Camille, an opportunity for you. What do you have to say?
Was that me?
Yes, you.
Okay.
Camila.
I would just say, we get stuck in this founder investor frame. I would say for everyone listening, don't be afraid to build your own solutions, right? You don't have to be just a consumer. You can be a creator. If you have a problem, which all of us do, you can be that founder that helps to build your solution, right? And then I will also say to everyone else that's listening too, is that we have to think innovatively, because the world that we live in, we're creating that, right? And we don't know what that future is going to look like. And so what got us there, what got us in this situation, is not necessarily going to get us out. We have to think innovatively. We have to think of new systems of funding. We have to think of new ecosystems to build around people that may not have the resources. So I would just encourage people to be innovative and creative and focus on building your own solutions.
Yes,
Thank you so much. And as fast as it comes, as fast as it goes. And thank you so much for joining us, our dear panelists. We look forward to having you back. The conversation has ended, but the summits are still more, and there are yet more to come. So we look forward to having you once again. And our audience, thank you for engaging. And for us, it was a gather. I'll gather as well. Over to you, GatherVerse team. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'm Charlotte Kemp, futurist, keynote speaker, and executive coach, and I'd like to take you through a philosophical conversation about the dematerialization of money, because once upon a time, money had weight. We could point to it, we could feel it. We traded cowrie shells. We had huge stones that represented wealth, and we knew who on the island had these stones. It was a social contract in terms of who had the wealth. In time, these types of trading elements were switched up for coins, and then the first paper money from China. And then during the Renaissance, they started actually keeping ledgers of accounts, who owed what money to whom. But then in the 20th century, we moved away even from the gold standard, and now we're using plastic. We're tapping. It's a tap, a blink, a fingerprint that allows us to trade money for something that we want to buy. No more clinking coins, no more folded notes. And now all the way to actually transacting with our cell phones, using QR codes to make transactions. In certain places, cash is irrelevant and not accepted. And we have now the blockchain, where we can do transactions and exchange value, very much based on distributed ledgers, ones and zeros, and it's all digital. But in the space of digital money, we're starting to reevaluate and question a number of other assumptions we have about money or economy or wealth. For example, we're beginning to count the cost of emotional labor, of how much value is created for an economy and for society by the people who care for other people, the volunteers who do work in organizations, people who add huge amounts of value and are not financially compensated. A lot of this value that has been created, that is relied on in a society, has never been counted and never been financially compensated. And now we're starting to reevaluate that emotional time and value and add to the economy. People are also being far more conscious about their financial choices and how their consumption of certain things affects perhaps the wrong kinds of people. So now we're making decisions based on whether something is green or not, is conscious or not, what the political affiliation means for this particular purchase, the impact on the environment, the integrity of the value chain, and who is being abused in the production of something that we are consuming for a few cents. Further than that, capitalism is being questioned for the first time in a very long time. The assumption is not that capitalism is necessarily the best option we have for an economy. The whole concept of what is natural or inevitable is being questioned. And the reason people support capitalism is because so many people believe that they too can pull themselves up by their bootstraps and to make a fortune, and now discovering that that is just not possible in the way society has been formed under the system. The whole concept of trickle-down economics is proving to be invalid and only creates more wealth for the already very wealthy people. So what is shifting is a sense of possibility of what economics and money can look like. We're also discovering that there are other kinds of currencies. We're not just trading in money, but we're also trading in a digital economy where our focus is now not on something physical, but on the clicks, the interaction, the engagement online, and that has value. Our participation in something creates value, not just the actual financial exchange that we might or might not even be making. And even beyond that, there is now a serious look at the value, the inherent value we have about our own personal data. If other people are making money by trading our data, then shouldn't that initial value come back to us who are creating our data? Every time we engage with an application or with anything on the internet, when we walk into a shop, when we're driving through a city, we are creating data that other people are becoming wealthy on. And why should other people get value from what we are creating? And if we look at those possibilities, we open up huge new philosophical questions about the nature of money and the nature of wealth. It's not just about owning physical assets, but the future might be about owning our own digital selves and deciding when and how that value is created. And if we're having a philosophical conversation about money and about value, then maybe we want to take the conversation all the way to the end and realize what the value is when we come together and co-create a preferred future for ourselves that is based on dignity, inherent value of the human being, where more people can get more benefit around the world without impacting anyone hugely financially, other than the 1% who might lose a small portion of their already exorbitant wealth. So there you go, some philosophical questions about the nature of money, the nature of economy, and the decisions we make about how we transact and what that means for ourselves, for our society, for our planet, and for the generations that come after us. I'm Charlotte Kemp, Futures Alchemist, and I invite you to join me on these kinds of philosophical conversations.
My name is David Benjamin. I'm the director of the Meta Layer Initiative. Like winter, AGI is coming. AGI is artificial general intelligence, essentially a system that can learn, understand, and reason at PhD levels across all domains. And experts tell us it's coming within a couple years. We're not prepared. has huge implications for money. Many of us may lose our jobs in 2 to 3 years. All jobs may disappear in 5 to 10 years. And who knows, but scams and fraud could rise exponentially. But that's just the beginning, because after AGI comes ASI, artificial superintelligence. And in that case, the intelligence of a mouse is to a human as a human's intelligence is to ASI. In other words, there's orders of magnitude difference. That's hugely concerning because we have no idea whether the ASI will be benevolent or malevolent. We just don't know. We've seen all the dystopian movies, and only 2 to 3% of all the money going into AI is going to AI safety. And that is completely focused on AI alignment, which seeks to have the AI align with human values. Not a lot of progress made so far. I think we are facing what I'm calling an Engelbartian dilemma. And that comes from the name of Douglas Engelbart. He is the forgotten father of the web and modern computing. In 1968, he demonstrated not only the mouse, but also hyperlinks, windows, video conferencing, real-time collaboration, annotation, and so much more. 1968. This guy knew that our problems would increase exponentially on a global scale, and he said, we need planetary solutions. He thought of collective IQ as a measure of effectiveness. How quickly and intelligently can people respond to a situation, leveraging their collective memory, perception, planning, reasoning, foresight, experience into applicable knowledge. And he saw 2 components for boosting collective intelligence. One, he called Kodiak, which is a group of people coming together and concurrently developing, integrating, and applying knowledge that would go into what he was calling the DKR, or a dynamic knowledge repository. This constituted what he considered an augmentation system, whereby humans would create tools that gave us new capabilities to create new tools that gave us even greater capabilities, and that we could spiral into a more brilliant society. So what is the Engelbartian AI dilemma? Will we be more likely to achieve alignment with superintelligence if we ourselves are collectively intelligent? And I would say the answer is unequivocally yes. I mean, if we're not aligned, if we're not collectively intelligent, what is there for AI to align with? Who will it choose to align with? Will it be the people with the most money? How will that work? To explore this, I did a 2x2 scenario analysis using ChatGPT, where I looked at 2 variables. One is human intelligence, the other is AI alignment. So I looked at this row being fragmented human intelligence like we have now, and this row being collective human intelligence like the more brilliant society that Douglas Engelbart envisioned. I also looked at this row being unaligned AI and this row being aligned AI. So let's give it some names. The cascading collapse is where we're working against each other and AI is working against us as well. And in this case, value will peak and eventually start going down, and likely money will remain highly concentrated. Let's talk about the lonely shepherd. Fragmented human intelligence, but AI is aligned. So we're working against each other, but AI is trying to work with us. So it's tribalistic, nation against nation, etc. More value is created and it's more widely distributed than in the cascading collapse. The next scenario I'd like to consider is the hijacked hive, where we have the more brilliant society, but yet at the same time, AI is unaligned. So we're working together much better as humans, but AI is working against us. And in this case, even more value can be created, but it's likely to remain somewhat concentrated. Now, here's the one I really like, the symbiotic age. And this is where we have the brilliant society plus AI alignment. This is the holy grail. This is where we want to be. However, there's not a lot of work being done on collective human intelligence. That's where the meta layers comes to play. The meta layer is the space above the web page. We're seeing a lot of progress already towards the meta layer. As I was saying, annotation was in the mother of all demos. It was also in the first widely distributed web browser, Mosaic. We have collaboration tools like Google Docs. We've got Web3 wallets that allow transactions above web pages. And now we have AI browsers. For example, Comet by Perplexity and Atlas by OpenAI. But the next step is the human AI browser. In that browser, not only can you work with your own personal AI, but you can also interact with communities of people. That's it. That's what we're looking for. That is the key to the more brilliant society in the context of artificial superintelligence. We're building a product right now called Canopy, and we will be putting out the beta in Q1. We are looking for communities that would like to be the first in the meta layer. If you are interested, please check out themetalayer.org and get in touch. You are also welcome to join as an individual or a partner organization and help us shape the next level of the internet.
And welcome, everyone. We're happy to be here with you again for our final roundtable of GatherVerse 2025 Money Summit Day 1. We're certainly ready to be able to move forward and chop a lot of wood here. We have quite a bit to unpack. Roundtable panelists, we ask that you please mute your mics as we have a lot to be able to go through and we want to be uninstructed as much as we can. We're going to be moving almost in a rapid fire succession, so we please ask you to be mindful of the time limit of what you're going to be speaking. When it comes to us being able to start, what I want us to do is for each person to let us know, hey, Avery, we see you. We want to let everyone know who you are, what you do briefly, and what inspired you to be here today. I'm going to kick off and go with Golden. Welcome back.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So my name's Golden. I'm a founder of House of Gold. I help founders, creators, and leaders build clarity, confidence, and long-term legacy in their work. So I teach them how to create go-to-market systems that are simple, human-centered, and rooted in customer psychology. I also have a background as a certified AI intelligence practitioner. Change management is my lane, along with strategies where I guide people to refine their ideas, document their success, and build a lasting digital legacy online.
And what inspired you to be here, Golden?
What inspired me to be here is just the gathering of community of out-of-the-box topics that aren't being talked about in the mainstream of the internet and things like that, and really just honing back into that human-centered conversation around change, around evolution, and ultimately just connecting with other like-minded individuals.
Excellent. We're happy to have you, and thank you so much. And Lauren, we'll head over to you as well. And welcome to everyone at GatherVerse.live that's with us as well. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren. This is Avery, and we are happy to be here. I'm a producer and an emerging technologist. I have a master's in virtual reality, and I've done a lot of different work in the industry. I just recently got my drone pilot's license, so I'm excited about that. I love just getting my hands on the newest, latest, greatest technology. I have an Insta360 that I really enjoy producing content with. And I'm excited to be here because this is probably coming up close to 10 or so of the summits that I've been to now. And I walk away every time feeling inspired and connected with people in my industry. And I think having these conversations is how we grow and inspire each other. And yeah, it's really just empowering to be here.
Lauren, we're happy to have you once again, and thank you. Dr. Morris, we're so happy to see you once again as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Messina Latifa Morris, or also known as Dr. Mulder of Minds or Dr. Mom. I'm an educator, an innovator, a metaversity architect, and the mother of 5 sons. I am a professor at Morehouse College, a biomolecular chemist by training, and I created the world's first metaversity and stand here as the first metaversity director in the world, having brought to life over 200 metaversities with tech companies in the industry. I build worlds where underestimated people don't belong. They lead. My life's work is turning overlooked genius into generational power, whether it's in XR, AI, STEM, education, or access. I'm also an autism mom, so I have a heart for the neurodivergent, those who are unable to voice what they need. I believe in standing in the gap for them and representing them. Today, I'm excited about being a part of this GatherVerse Money Summit. One, because I am a product of an HBCU. I went to Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta, Georgia. I am just a young Black girl from Decatur, Georgia, who has risen to the tops of the ed tech ranks in the work that I have done for 2,500 Morehouse men at Morehouse College, making them the first metaversity in the world. And what I do know is that
Before we
today,
go too deep, Dr. Morris, because we're going to save all that, but we got to move forward with these introductions. If you could just keep it as brief as possible.
we get to name what's been hidden and funding that has been ignored.
Welcome. We definitely welcome you once again, Dr. Morris. Judith, we're on to you. Judith?
Hello, good evening to everyone. Can you hear me?
Judith, we're going to bring you back to our production team. We have a bit of a microphone issue going on. Carlos, you're on.
Thank you. Can you hear me clearly? So,
Perfect.
hi, my name is Carlos Clay. I'm the CEO and founder of 360 Degrees Group and operations manager of Black and Brown Founders, where we work with business nationally. And I work with a lot of businesses primarily on structure, infrastructure, systems, scaling, from start to finish, depending on what your system is. And my background, my background is operations management. So I have a very skilled background understanding how money works from an operational standpoint, where to scale it, where to start, where to invest, not to invest, when to invest and when not to invest. And that's what I do primarily now. My background, 20 plus years in technology, 20 years by operations management. I've helped organizations raise millions of dollars in resources, do different programming for the community, overall, do support nonprofits and different organizations. And the reason why I'm here is because I believe that we're in a time and era where money's coming very important. And as we shift, we have to better budget our money better. We have to better utilize the money better. We have to look at money as a tool and not just an object of spending, but it's also a tool to invest in your business from a personal level and a business level.
Sure.
And just overall, just making sure that we have strong financial systems and financial management so that way we're prepared for when things happen.
Sure. Carlos, we're happy to have you and welcome back. Spyro, please.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me good. Greetings to all the sides of the globe. Christopher, thank you one more time for the invitation. It's a great honor being here. So my name is Spyro Orestis. I come from Greece. I'm located currently in the Netherlands. I'm the founder of a one-man consultancy firm called GatherVerse. My background lies in mechanical engineering, biosystems engineering, IT, creative strategies. I'm also a music producer and also a music player at a rock band located in Greece, but hopefully will go globally, and also a painter myself. So I consider myself a creative strategist with a systems thinking background.
Spyro, what inspired you to be here today with us? Spyro, what inspired you to be here today?
I'm sorry. The inspiration is the community-based learning that I get to have and obtain from these sessions. Also, the inspiration that I drive from each individual and the stories that everyone have to bring and their hero's journey approach to many things that they are tackling daily with their ventures and also their talents. And I'm not going to lie, also you, Christopher, was my inspiration, and I've been following you for a long time, and also GatherVerse. So why not attending this year's GatherVerse?
We're so happy to have you once again, and thanks for the shout out. I appreciate it. We definitely chop wood. Ian, you're up.
All right. Thank you for having me here again. I've been so honored to be invited many times here. So I'm Ian Kang from South Korea, who's been educating people like students with very innovative education methods based on cognitive science and AI, and which could enable students to learn for very affordable tuition costs. So, and also I'm very lucky that I think I would say I'm one of those unseen like a person or business that has been kind of revealed by GatherVerse. So in that sense, I really appreciate it. And then I have a lot to talk about today. So thank you again. Yeah.
Ian, you often have a lot to talk about, and many of you I know personally also have a lot to talk about, and you're in the right place to have a lot to talk about. But before we get there, Judith, we're going to give you another shot at this. Hopefully your mic is good. Talk to us. Your mic, please. You're muted. Judith, we can't hear you. You may need to check your microphone attachment. I think it's because you're plugged in or not plugged in. You want to unplug.
Okay. Can everyone hear me? Good evening. Yep. Okay. Hello. Hi, my name is Judith Ifezwe. Good evening from Nigeria. It's evening here. And I am the Chief Training Officer of Speak 10 Times Better. It's my brand. I'm the founder and the executive director. So what I do is I help people build confidence. I help them speak 10 times better. And I've also worked with a lot of people that stammers, that stutters. So I help them to tame stammering. I mean, because we can't totally clear it off. So we can go from someone that stammers like 80% of the time to 6 or 7% of the time. So that's what I do. Straight to the point, confidence building, speaking 10 times better, and taming stammering. That's what I do. And it's an honor to be here today with amazing people on this panel. So I can't wait to dive in.
Judith, we're very happy to have you, and thank you so much. You know, we think about and we talk about investments. We speak thematically to what this summit is about when we talk about money. We talk about capital, funding those who get funding and funding those who are unseen often when it comes to the vestiges of being able to procure some type of monetary effort and schematic to be able to join to what it is that you're building and hyperscaling, whether it's an AI platform, an immersive body, or if you're building anything under the banner of startup founder capacity. We think about those who are unseen to the spirit of this particular roundtable and so much thematic to so much of what we're talking about today, especially particularly on the day of Giving Tuesday. What I want to do roundtable is I want to be able to get your thoughts, express thoughts in a very quick fire succession, if you will, because we have a lot to unpack. We will be on topic and off topic. So prepare for that, please. And I will be jumping around, but I want to leverage and to be able to drive as much as I can from you. Golden, I'm coming in hot with you. But to the question that's on this in the box, I want us to ignore that for a moment. What I want to do is I want to talk about when we talk about funding in this modern, contemporary, to our time world of AI hyperscale, when we talk about investments in capital, what do brands need to know in order to position themselves to even look the part as a point of reference or to remain discoverable, to even being seen in this very crowded space?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And I do work with a lot of people delivering pitches for funding and to be seen. So it's definitely a huge positioning to really factor in. One thing that people overlook is the fact that you have data that you're not using. So that's coming from your clients, your customers, perhaps how you launched an event. There's so much data there that a lot of people aren't using to position themselves for visibility online. A lot of people don't know what even visibility means. And ultimately, it just means being seen, being put in the right audience so they can actually see what you have to offer and what your services are. So I would definitely recommend people who already have clients, who already sell products or have a business or anything of that nature, is to tap into their testimonial network, put that in the front center, put that out there, pitch themselves to be visible on media outlets, websites, other people talking about the same thing they're talking about, getting on podcasts. These are really inexpensive way to get visible. Marketing and ads is not needed, especially in time of AI right now, where we can actually be more authentic and human based into positioning ourselves for visibility. These are some great tips for someone to actually be building their credibility online and boosting that social proof.
You know, I find that very interesting. I'm going to do a follow-up with you. When we talk about building up social proof, why? Because I find it very interesting at today's present times. Listen, folks, the ones that are out here, organic to me is the way to go. People are spending a tremendous amount of money in paid media, paid advertisement, and they're going nowhere fast. If we look at it, the results, and they speak for themselves. But if you have brand visibility, viability, and you look the part, and you're building out what Golden just expressed as social proof, to me, that's inherently more important, and it's authentic. Your numbers may not be as high as you actually want to see them, but your impact is much more effective. So are we talking, Golden, over quantity more so than quality?
100% quality all the way. If you want to build a digital legacy online, if you want to last beyond these trends and virality moments, you're going to want to really build your credibility. And it's all about the quality. Social proof matters because people trust what they see. And it's clarity on action that's being taken in that business, in that environment. And it shows receipts. It reduces doubt. It strengthens confidence. So it really helps investors and just like-minded clients and communities to come in and step into that world. And so most people are persuaded on the old traditional way of putting up money to get seen. However, there are so many free strategic ways to position yourself for that credibility online with data that we already have.
I find that fascinating. Carlos, do you agree or disagree with what Golden just expressed?
I agree. And to add on to that, I believe that we need to, before we ask for any money investors, we need to actually understand the industry we're in. Many times we have tons of data based on pre-existing people who experience information, mentors, and we go and learn the same thing they learn when you can actually do a shortcut, get the data you need, and know the industry you're in, what's required. So when you start being on scene, you can kind of know what's been done, not been done, and create your own path. Many times we like to copy somebody else's path. And I don't believe in copying anybody's path. I believe create your own narrative, your own path in the same industry, and create relationship with those people who support you and they see you. Too many times, like I said, I don't want to be seen by everybody else. I want to be seen by people who see me. Because if you see me, I see you, we work together. But if you don't see me and I don't see you, there's a point of working together. And I believe in that. We have to work with people that see our vision, see our goals, see where we want to take our business. And that's what we work with, and also understand the industries and the information, what's been done, not been done, and what we can do to change the narrative and create our own narrative, our own story.
Yeah, I find that very fascinating. It's very interesting that you're talking about storytelling. You're talking about creating narrative. Golden's talking about social proof. I think a lot of that has to do in new age storytelling as well. Social proof certainly isn't a single variable equation. It's a multi-variable equation. It's stacked upon one another. I'm coming over you to Lauren and Dr. Morris, you're next. I start thinking about extension of reality itself, the capability to be able to bring people further into the virtual layer from the material layer to the virtual layer, and the extension of a story itself when it comes to reality. And we have pioneers and those that are bringing people into new spaces that we've never been in. And we talk about establishing social proof so deep into this frontier that most people and so many other people that don't operate under the technological vernacular, they don't understand what it is that they're even interacting with now when it comes to the immensity and the capability of these tools that are just named overnight. And really being defined in real time. With that said, Lauren, I think about what you just said as having a master's degree in virtual reality. And we know that we're preparing to be able to engage and embark into a frontier that most people are unfamiliar with. And this is more than just entertainment and video games that you're involved with, but you're really serving as someone that bridges a gap between those who understand where they're at presently and don't understand the future forward is virtual. It is far more different from anything that we've ever interacted with. And I start thinking about the narrative of what Golden is expressing, and on the heels of Carlos, thinking about this social proof and establishment. Carlos talked about inbound opportunity. Are you able to see me? So in other words, how are we able to give better viability to people in this world and remove ourselves from the old traditional ways of viability to be seen, and to bring them into new, different venues of moving forward when it comes to virtual settings and operations in this global world that we all share in?
Okay, great question. I really enjoyed listening to what Carlos had to say about like kind of knowing your purpose and putting that out there and defining your own path. And I think that's something that we're really blessed to have an opportunity to do so in our day and age, especially through social media. I imagine all of us are probably scattered throughout the world physically where we are. So being able to have a tool like LinkedIn, where you can share projects that you've worked on and really align with your passion and purpose and get that out there, I think is really important. And yeah, as far as like creating opportunities, I think a lot of times we have to just kind of align ourselves with our own purpose. And a lot of times, whenever we find something that we're really passionate about, we can use tools like virtual and augmented reality, because the limits that we have with these tools are really, they're unlimited. So you can make anything happen. You can defy gravity. You can create experiences that are fun, but also educational at the same time, and really build community and get people hooked. And again, you can do that with people all over the world in different time zones. And you can have a space where you feel present. So I think that these tools are something that is really going to create a breakthrough for everybody, and putting people out, allowing people to put their own passion out there, and work together with opportunities that they wouldn't have had 5 or 10 years ago.
I find that very fascinating, and thank you, Lauren, because you talked about a key golden, just a standard of ours with GatherVerse when we talk about community development and establishment. I go on the heels of Golden talking about, again, that social proof, and then Carlos talking about identifiability and accessibility. Dr. Morris, we're coming in hot over to you on the heels of this, and I'm going to do my best to be able to string all what 3 speakers have already said so far. Social proof, identity, community. What do those mean in this world where we believe that we had to scale up so that the world can see us? But are we really wanting to be more viable to a selective few in the community that can see us and build with us? You know, something that's more intimate. I think the days of influencers as we know it, I think it's a dying breed. I think, and it's a way for scale. I think there's much more of an intimacy that needs to develop in community centricity. Am I looking at this right or wrong? Because if I see you for who you are and everybody's an influencer, then everybody has the same stats, the same figures, the same reputation. But where's the substance, that quality that Golden was talking about? It seems to me that only happens in more of an intimate setting when it comes to community. And I think that's best expressed in today's world globally of tribal identification when we start talking about the extension of the metaverse or extended reality. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Morris?
I really think that it's super important for people to learn how to be their authentic selves. With social media, it allowed people to turn into who they thought others wanted them to be. And being in virtual reality has given the opportunity for, I know, my students and even myself to reimagine who I want to be for me, and to authentically be who I need to be for the world. So, to be quite honest, it's not about how we position ourselves, it's that we were created for a purpose. We were created for to serve a particular group of humanity, and we need to stand in that. And so it's really important for people to be more accepting, more forgiving, more loving, more kind, not just to one another, but to themselves, and to understand that they are their brand, just how they are. And so you don't have to polish yourself up to be anybody other than yourself. And that's the key thing that's missing. So many people overlook their own authenticity as something that doesn't need to exist, but you wouldn't be uniquely you unless that was the case.
It seems to me, as a follow-up, Dr. Morris, it takes a sufficient amount of courage to follow up, to be authentically courageous these days, to be able to break past the traditional norms that we've inherited in this amalgamation of social media scale. It seems to me that we'll need pioneers to exercise to be different for what it is that we've known or what we've been told we need to do by big tech, to be candid on how we need to present ourselves. It seems to me that authenticity is the way to go forward. What are the benefits and the value of that, Dr. Morris?
The benefits is that you have peace. You have peace, and then you can pursue your passions and the things that you really need to do with purpose, with vigor. And honestly, I think that I have outgrown a certain set of ideologies about who I'm expected to be in order to be accepted by you. I fervently believe that what is to come to you will be yours. And so when you become a beggar of something that you feel like you need to belong to, you also are at the heels and you're at the mercy of who they want you to be. So, yeah, big tech has a lot to offer, but all of the things that built up big tech were created by smaller innovators and inventors and people who were just as brilliant. And if you believe truly in your brand and your brilliance, then you have more than you even think you have to bring to the table, and you don't need to be a beggar.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Dr. Morris. We'll come back to you in just a little bit. Ian, we're headed over to you. We talk about, in some ways, freedom. This is what I'm getting from this panel, and innovation of innovating started within our own hearts and minds, if you will. I know, Ian, I've seen you express on many occasions at GatherVerse, and you often do speak with a certain liberty of expressing out loud the things that you're thinking and to make those transparent. And it seems that you do it without a care in the world for what people may perceive of what it is that you're taking in terms of approach. It's very unconventional, but I find in some ways inspiring that you take this path and approach. And I know that you're doing similar when it comes to education. What are your thoughts on all that's being said so far?
Sorry, today I think, like, can you just briefly ask me a question again, like with a simple sentence one more time? I'm sorry about that.
No, don't be sorry at all. When we talk about expressing, and I'll lean in further with this, expressions, we talk about this communication. I kind of go back to what Golden's talking about in terms of tribal identification, and Carlos is talking about as well in community development. Inherently, why is that so important, Ian, when we start to talk about these things to be viable? We talk about viability, but accepted with this viability, and that it's okay to be your authentic self of who you are, who you're going to be. It seems to me that this is a better approach strategically than what we've been attempting to be able to achieve and become discoverable to people that they don't want to see you, and they may not appreciate what it is that they see if they do see you.
Right. I think, as you mentioned, and also, I think I'm kind of this sort of like an unseen businessman and also educator for lots of reasons. And I think I've been sort of like politically alienated. So in this kind of situation, it's extremely hard for me to attract people's attention to establish a business, no matter how valuable it is. So I really think that this sort of like an online community could be one of the best ways to get out of this sort of circumstance. But recently, thanks to this sort of like online community, like a GatherVerse and LinkedIn like community and the people there that I have met, I think I also have got some like domestic supports within this country, and also some political figures have approached me as well. So in this sense, I think like politics is very important. I think 80% of business is about politics. So if you are alienated from like this sort of like political, the community, it is really almost impossible to achieve a great impact on the world. So I think, yeah, I think that's how we can make a big deal, like together. So we need a public support, especially from the governmental figures or governmental bodies. I think that's what I can say. Yeah,
it's very fascinating. I think a few years ago, most people would have scoffed at that idea, but I think that we find ourselves in a world of ideas that are really in some ways prolific. That we're seeing so many different contributions to creativity that's harvested by both human and machine. I find that very interesting, Ian. We'll come back to you in a moment. Orestes, we're coming in hard over you. I think about, as from a founder position, I'm sure that you can appreciate it, as well as all the different people that are with us at GatherVerse.live that are founders, entrepreneurs, and how difficult it can be to be able to maintain the integrity of what it is that you've developed, whether by yourself, which truly no one could do it alone, can they? Or with others that are part of with you in this journey that you find yourself in entrepreneurship, and still having to have a sense of managing your livelihood, if I could put it like that. What are some of the challenges that you find with being a founder? I feel like this is the authentic hour. And the reason I'm talking about this certainly does talk about when we talk about the need to want to be able to sustain these and fund all the many different people that call themselves founders and entrepreneurs, because they literally are at a precedent of frontier innovation, to where we need to understand what we're funding, who we're funding, and why we're funding, and why it's so critically important to really put capital towards these innovations and frontier of what we're going to need to be able to move forward as a society. This is not just about making billions of dollars as a unicorn. I believe we're now at the importance, Orestes, of funding founders so that we can sustain on this earth. Because with AI so capable of doing the many things that other people can do, we have better start to see what else is next on the horizon.
All right. To start with, each individual faces challenges in their own matrix. Many founders found themselves in having brilliant ideas that they have validated through their academic journey or not by investors meetings, and they might run into lack of funds, and they might follow different paths to gain these funds for their survivals in the first place, which is food, essential, and paying rent, and your taxes, your tax obligations, and all these basic needs that you have to cover in order to be functionable and able to be innovative. Being a founder that I've seen myself growing from a kid and now returning back to my hometown and seeing the level of my neighborhood, that it used to be a nice neighborhood, but due to geopolitical changes and crisis in Greece, I see my neighborhood was ghettoified. I've seen a lot of criminality. So I see that I came from a neighborhood that now is considered in the era and the spectrum of vulnerable teams that they have became founders. The main challenge is that some founders face, they cannot identify their hero's journey and what is their purpose in building truthful and innovation based on trust, resilience, and also fair data distribution, touching and domains that they haven't been touched before, having a diverse background that somehow makes the venture capitals brings chaos to the capitals and the investors, the future investors, and they might think that they're too creative for me. A lot of challenges that hopefully when a founder overcomes them and presents them in the marketing platforms to gain traction and also leverage funds later in a bigger journey of the journey. Yeah, like each individual has her own story to tell regarding the challenges.
Thank you, Orestes. I really appreciate that. Judith, we're coming over to you. I'm listening intently to what Orestes has said, as well as all the other speakers that are speaking today at GatherVerse Money Summit 2025. I think about, from your position, Judith, you're a trainer, you're an educator, you teach, you guide people towards the next steps in the beautiful country of Nigeria. And when I think about the task and the challenge for our educators, I continue to say more and more that in many respects, especially with those that are of technologists, that technologists are needed to become educators now and to be able to teach, such as Dr. Morris. I think she's one of the best examples, certainly in the world that I know of extended reality of a technologist that is an educator. That's an incredible power and a strength. And those are the people I think that we need to fund and support, that can lead towards greater societal benefit of being able to unlock the imagination of understanding of the true potential that every individual has latent inside them to be able to contribute towards the overall betterment of society itself. And Judith, in what ways does the work that you do help enhance this narrative that we're talking about now?
All right, so thing is, when most people come for trainings, especially for the communication trainings, there's always something that they need, right? They want to improve with their communications at their jobs. And just like Golden said, most times people want to learn more about the quantity, but they don't want to work more to get down on the quality. Sorry. So what I do in order to help people become who they're supposed to be, attract investments, is to first off understand. They have to first off understand why exactly they are doing what they are doing. Right. I'll give you an example with communication. Most times people come to me with the complaints, I'm trying to attract investors, but I feel like I'm not great at speaking, I'm not great at communications, and I believe I haven't still bridged that gap. So I'd first off have some what's it called, the needs analysis, help them understand what exactly it is they need. Most people they know what they want, but they don't even know how to start to get it. So I'd try to bridge that gap for them, help them understand their needs, help them to, yes, craft a curriculum for them, help them understand how to speak better so they can attract investors, investments. And the truth is, for most of these investors, they still don't understand that the overlooked they normally still go for the shining objects, forgetting that the overlooked are where the real impact is, where the social benefits are. And they always base it off of the immediate financial benefits. And I normally tell them to incorporate the ESG. Now, what does ESG mean? It's environmental, social, and governmental metrics, whereby they track the performance on social benefits, jobs created, healthcare, and all that. So I tell people that before you try to attract investors, you have to ask yourself, am I actually impacting the indigenous people? How am I impacting them socially, environmentally,
Sure.
healthcare wise, and all of that? So help them
Sure.
understand that you cannot just learn communication and then you're pitching to someone who already has like 20 or 25 years of experience in what they're doing. They will think you're bullshitting them. Excuse my French. So I normally tell people you have to understand what it is you want and be sure you're impacting indigenous people. Most people, they're just trying to impact the surface level people, the rich part of the society. I normally tell people, if you're into healthcare, go for mobile healthcare, whereby you move from the, because most times for healthcare in places like Africa as a continent, the hospitals are normally far from where the villages and the towns are. So I normally tell people, when you incorporate the mobile healthcare, that way you move equipment from like the ones that are movable to people's homes. You test them, check their BPs, check their sugar level and all of that. By doing that alone, you don't even need anybody you don't even need to beg people to invest. They're seeing what you're doing and they would advocate for you even before you speak for yourself. And I tell people to adopt the impact framework. Okay, I already
let's
talked about
let's
that.
let's 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 stop there for a second. We're going to come back to that, Judith, because I think you left on something that I think is critically important when you talk about what Carlos was talking about, visibility. Are you able to see me? And I think that's a very, very strong point you just made, Judith, about your disposition and how you carry yourself, what you go about, and what's the impact that you make around you. And maybe we need to consider, Golden, that we our own selves are our best marketing campaigns when it comes to what it is that we do and to communicating with other people outside of the limited circles that we find ourselves in, to be able to ascertain towards more opportunities. Uh, where does this matter and why does this matter, Golden, when it comes to really self-brand equity in business? I think we just lost you, Golden. So, Carlos, won't you pick that up for me, will you?
And again, so I can read it clearly.
Yeah, so when we talk about viability and self-brand equity and discoverability, and what Judith is talking about, the work that you're doing, when you're doing a certain type of work, and when you carry this certain type of work, what it allows you to become more viable and more visible towards those that can appreciate your impact to society. Why is this important? How do we start that? How do we create ourselves to be seen beyond traditional means and methods?
I believe value. Everything has value. Stock market, businesses, services, all value based. We chase money and we chase profit. We don't chase value. And value is everything. And so I'm a firm believer when we invest when our product brings value to certain individuals, companies, partners, collaborations, we tend to win after that because value is key. We forget value, and value is everything. How would such value my service? What value are they getting out of my service? If we partner together, Chris, as we speak as partners, when I speak, when I think about it, what can I say and bring on a platform that can help other people grow? It's not just about me. And when we finally move ourselves out the picture and we look at the full picture and value, then we can now start to see what everything looks like. But many times we're so focused on ourselves because we've been culturally, even in the United States, across the globe, media, we've been taught how to just focus on ourselves, what we want, what we get. It's all about us, me, I. But reality, the world doesn't operate like that. It's a collective society. And so when you think of the value concept, value is essential core for me in everything. What value do I get? What value do I bring? What value do you bring? What value do we all bring? We all bring a level of value from life experiences. And that's what matters, collective value. So when we look at that, value is key. What value do you bring in your service, partnerships, products, anything? And also, and I'm going to make this has hit, what value can you work together? Many times, a lot of us do the same thing. So what happens is we're all fighting for the same pie instead of coming together. So what can we, and we all have a strong, and too many times, we all have a strong value we bring. So how do we come together as a collective with our strongest value as a collective body and grow that together? Because as many founders, you can do for one thing great. We all do one thing great and come together. Now we have a collective value where we can grow better as a collective versus as individuals and give more opportunities and attract more investors. And I believe that value is key.
With Carlos, how do we tap into that value, Golden? We'll bring that over to you. Carlos talks about value. We talk about inherent value. How does a founder, because it was already said here, most people know where they want to go. They know how to get there. But at the same admittance that founders don't completely understand what it is that they're really going for. They just want to become a founder. They want to have a unicorn. They want to build, but they don't really think about the social inheritance and the social responsibility that comes with being a founder when it comes to scale. But ultimately, I start thinking about what Carlos is saying as far as inherent value. How can you determine the value that you contribute and that you bring along with your innovations of what you're building? How do we tap into that, Golden? Your mic is muted.
Sorry. Interesting to bring up because how I work with my clients is actually put them through a mindset training. A lot of people love entrepreneurship. They want to be founders, but they don't actually understand the phases that they have to go through. And outside of that, they don't actually understand who they are as a person. So we always bring it back to the mindset. We always bring it back to what is their legacy, right? Everyone here has a legacy. Everyone here has a path, a purpose. And we need to reward systems that reduce harm. We need to reward companies and founders that create generational stability. And so we need to reward leaders who think beyond a funding round into long-term stewardships. And so a founder can hold value in that space, understanding that it's the choices that they make that build their business and position themselves onto paths and communities that require their service and offer, which is ultimately something that will benefit or solve a challenge in that market. So we have to name legacy as a measurable outcome, not a soft value, but a very heavy one. What are founders' values? What are their mindset? What is their legacy ultimately? How do they want to leave people behind, right? Why are they on this path? And legacy is a strategy. When investors see it in that way, founders' values shift when they actually hold a legacy inside of them.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Golden. I think about legacy, me personally, and this is just me personally, I could care less. I think so many people have really, in some ways, have bastardized the old word of legacy. It almost feels like a Scarface movie as far as what it is that I've ascertained to in life, instead of residually thinking about the impact of your what is, we talk about a carbon footprint. What's your impact footprint? I tend to look at it like that if I hear the word legacy, and how I would interpret that to be under the banner. So thank you for expressing that. Dr. Morris, you certainly know about impact in the work that you do and what you residually are giving to your students. You've been around long enough to see those that have been under your tutelage go out into this world and do incredible things, and some may not do much at all. What does that feel like from the purpose of the educator? Does that realign and make you double down on the work that you're doing, or is it disheartening to see that the ones that are under your tutelage may not go in the direction that you want? Or do you celebrate their agency and autonomy, no matter the destination they find themselves in?
I support my students through every stage. I am committed to their growth. I'm committed to molding their minds, and I don't believe that anyone takes missteps that cannot be redirected back to their full purpose. So for me, I'm in the trenches with my students. I'm in the trenches with my children. I'm in the trenches with other people who are under my wing. It makes every long night worth it. It makes every tear I've cried worth it. It makes me, as a little girl who never missed a homework assignment, it makes those long hours and 24 hours a day worth of work and labor and toil worth it. So for me, my students know that they always have access to me, even beyond their degree, even beyond their ability to have sat in my classroom. I literally can reach out to 10 to 12 students that are in every phase of their own professional life and journey, including my own children, who have had to venture into entrepreneurship because they've lost a job, or who's had to bet on themselves in ways because other systems have let them down. And my job and my role as an educator is to always encourage. It's to always lift up. It's to always see the part of them that is great, so that they'll understand how to lean into their potential. Everyone has purpose. Nothing is wasted here.
It's very powerful. Ian, I think about everyone has purpose and nothing is wasted here. You talk about the need for maybe a social contract for the good of community, for people to come together. What are we arriving for now, and why is it more important than ever before for us to be able to have community in settings like GatherVerse and more? Ian?
Okay, sorry. So yeah, so so it's been hard for me to find good opportunities for so long, and then and I have thought about the justice. What is justice in terms of capital allocation? And I think this is very clear. This is very clear. So being given sufficient opportunities, to receive capital, I think that that ultimately determines what we call justice. So in that sense, many business founders or entrepreneurs.
Wait, Ian, before we go there, I want you to address the question that I put forth, not just the one that's on screen. What is the inherent importance of community, and why are we arriving together for? What is the importance of this right now in this present time?
All right.
Here, I want you to take some time to think about that for a second. I do want to come back to you and address that. Lauren, I'm going to ask you the same question, since you're the one that invoked it and why it's important. And there's something that I'm getting to. It's something that I'm getting to, is that we talk about the difficulties of what it takes to be able to financially raise capital. And a lot of people are going to the places where they're not going to give you capital. I think many people come here to Silicon Valley, go to Sand Hill Road and say, that's where I'll get my money because I have a deck and a good idea, or I have adoption, traction, and scalability, and I'm multinational with my product. But that's not even enough now for you to be able to procure, pass into a seed round. The whole notion and the idea of a pre-seed in some ways is very limited and limited scope to very small verticals that would fund in such ways. Most investors want to fund Series A and higher. Here's the point that I'm getting at. The inherent need for community and the sense of identity and accessibility is what I'm getting at, is what it is that I'm thinking is what we want to come to the conclusion of this panel. Lauren, you talked about community. We talked about the need for that and the capability. And I believe that we're heading into a space sooner rather than later. Dr. Morris works in this space of virtual existence. And Lauren, you got a master's degree in this. You're well-traveled around the world this is the work you do. Why and what is the benefit of us coming together when it comes to community?
People need community. People need places where they can vibe with people who are like-minded like they are. It keeps you encouraged. It keeps you from your own demise. It keeps you grounded. It keeps you humble, and it keeps you hungry. But people need other people. We need each other's ideas. We need forums like this to be able to bounce ideas off of. We need to know that we're not alone. When you are trying to really rewrite history as we are, and you're trying to really overcome oppressive systems that exist, especially when it comes to money, funding, and the people who have and do not have. It's a lot. I mean, you can't really compete in a place where you don't have a collective. It's hard to compete with a
Sure.
system that has existed for generations. They were putting money in Swiss banks in the 1940s when there wasn't even real good air transportation. So imagine what you're up against when it comes to just being able to sustain your own local community or your own household. We're talking about people don't even have money to go and buy eggs in the store
But what
versus
makes
people who
but
are looking for millions of dollars.
But what makes this time so different, Dr. Morris, and I have to say, and I agree on both sides of the coin that you've just flipped. What makes it so different, Lauren, is that we no longer have to be relegated to the communities that are right in front of us, if you will.
Correct.
Global virtual connectivity, Lauren, I believe is the next step forward, and that's part of the idea is for us to be able to find such democratized access, not with tools, but with humans, with people, with the opportunity to be able to get to know one another in ways we never have. And within that, could there be a buy-sell trade ecosystem that manifests within that particular vertical setting in community?
I think that community is super important because like we are inspired by each other, and community, having friends that support you and can bounce ideas off of each other is important because that's how we move from like one space to another, and we're inspired by different resources and virtual spaces. And we can see when our friends and the people that love us and want to see us succeed really have good ideas and can help us kind of branch out of our own thinking. And I think a lot of times whenever you are surrounded by people that are also doing really cool things, it forces you to grow. And yeah, like Doctor was saying as before, we just are going to be kind of moving on a hamster wheel if we're in this alone. Like this community is going to forward by bouncing ideas off of each other and going to different spaces and showing each other that we're excited about these new exciting technologies, because everything's moving so fast and you can scroll on LinkedIn all day long. But really, whenever you're going to grow and be inspired is by having people that you really have connected with virtually and in person. And I think one of the greatest things about this community is that we go to conferences and stuff like that, and that's always a lot of fun and good to feel the sense of community in person. But now that we have spaces like VR chat or GatherVerse, we can then continue these relationships and continue growing them online. Yeah, so it's moving the ball forward isn't something that we can all do alone. So I think that having like a sense of teamwork and being inspired by people that are also on the edge of the cutting edge of technology is important.
Thank you very much, Lauren. We really appreciate that. Ian, very briefly, what is the sense of the value of community to Ian?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about sharing it, right? Caring, right? We're helping each other, and then we get insights, and we feel supported, and even I think I wanted to talk about this. So from the perspective of God, like private sectors exist to make the world much faster than I mean. So unlike public sectors, private sectors must create lots of impact on the world. And so that's why private sector exists. That's why, and also like the successful business owners would be the ones who could contribute to the community, and then who can make them more affluent. And then you can you deserve acquiring lots of investment as well. So. In that sense, I mean, I've been always honored to, sharing ideas and then getting insights from you guys.
Thank you, Ian. I think you just manifested and expressed it the part of the value of community. Orestes, I would ask the same of you. Carlos, the same of you. Judith, and then Golden will end with you. But Orestes, very quickly, what is the sense of value of community for Orestes, and what does that mean for everyone else that shares this community with you?
I mean, if you think about historically, people has always have been working together in communities, and they have like noted societal progress. When more specifically, when we're talking about GatherVerse, the sense of community and the sense of trust has built through having these interactive conversations, and has empowered me to continue my journey, which I think it's the win of having this type of communities, that they empower creators that they can later empower with their own inventions, the betterment of mankind. So I think it's very crucial, the collaboration as a path for disruptive transformation, as well active dialogues throughout these communities.
Thank you, Orestes. We appreciate it. Carlos, you talked about wanting to be seen. How can we be seen? Are you able to see me? An inbound opportunity. When you're a community, what do we see?
Well, we see what I would say that when it comes to community, we see what we allow ourselves to see. Like, we control our own perception, we can control what we see in vision, we control everything. And many times we say, "What don't they see?" So when I know I control what I see, then in reality, what do I want you to see? That's the key. And a lot of times we don't know that until we get certain life experiences. And so I'm a firm believer in understanding that to be seen means to be unseen by many, but seen by the right people, which lines with value, alignment, who you are, who they are, moral values. Because like I said, we don't realize that just like investors, we all invest. When I look at us, we're all investors in our own business. We're also working to connect with investors who want to invest in our business. And so reality, we're all investors. So when you understand that, look at things from that investor state of mind. If I want somebody to invest $1 million into my business, what is the mind of that person or the investor who's going to invest in $1 million in my business? What's their mind like? When we focus on the profile of the investor, the personnel, do we align? Do we connect? Can we talk about business? Can we talk more than an hour, 2-3 hours? Because now it's not just about the money. It's about, we're true partners long term. And you have to have respect to the investor to realize that where their values are for our values, and do they realign? And I think when you start to line up realign values with investors, from me being an investor to you being an investor, from my company to your company, now we can start to get real solutions and create real value and real solution, because now we align. Because it's easy taking somebody's money. But the question is, if I have to adhere to how you see me, and you don't see, how you see me, and you don't see what I'm capable of, my personnel or my personality, and you don't allow me to have the creativity to create value to grow the company, then that can hinder the growth of the company. So it's all about assuring that we both see the same value and have respect of each other and value each other as much as possible. Say we're partners in business, not investor. Because once you invest in my business, we're partners after that.
Thank you, Carlos. Mutual value. That's really picked up. Thank you for sharing that. Judith, please, briefly, community. You guide people, you teach people, you educate people, you do this. But what do they want? What do you want them to benefit? What's the benefit extract from community? Let's be brief, please.
All right. Community to me as an executive communications coach is a cornerstone of authentic leadership. Now, I've actually trained some executives, I've worked with founders, CEOs, and I believe strongly that community enables these leaders to hear diverse perspectives. They understand what is what and why some people think the way they do, especially for people that are trying to get investments, investors. And it challenges their assumptions and refines their message with clarity and impact. And it also helps them to understand that vulnerability or trying to tell your story, it does not mean you're weak. It means you're trying to be relatable. It means you're trying to get other people to understand where you're coming from and hopefully tap into your story and hopefully get an investment. But if not, of course, in the future, there's aside investors, I mean, most founders that I've worked with never got investors or investments. It's just from the sales, from the services they render, from the products they sell. So I normally tell them not everybody is destined to get an investment and all of that. So community, what I do for them is to remind them that the beginning and the end of your business is not about investors or investments. It's about understanding what you're doing and why you're doing it. That's it.
Thank you, Judith. That's really heartfelt in so many different ways. I certainly wish we had the minutes to go the distance of what you said, but sadly we don't. Golden, I'm bringing it over to you to be able to make a hard close, because I want to be able to unpack all this in just an ounce of a second given. We talk about all the different things that we've expressed today, and a lot of that is imbued or encircled in community development and centricity. We talk about mutual value of one another and the benefit and the gain of that. We talk about how we as founders, what we contribute, will actually create a beacon so bright, more so, especially when it comes to societal human betterment and impact, more so than a multi-million-dollar marketing campaign. I believe that could actually produce. We talked about authenticity. We talked about the need to be able to grow. We talked about listening and community. We talked about all these things and what's sustainable. And we also talked about investors. And it seems to me that the lesson I'm learning here, and I'd like to know your lesson that you've gained, Golden, as you lead us to the end of this incredible roundtable, is it seems to me that we search for investors and we look for these strangers with people with big pockets and big pillowcases stuffed with cash and big checks to be able to write. But it seems the best investors are the ones that can see us, the ones that are with us, the ones that are our community. I think the investment of the heart may get us further in these times to come than the investment in the bank. And I think in order to do that successfully, Golden, when we talk about our brand, I think it's so important for people to know when we step in community with one another, who is Golden? Who is Dr. Morris? Who's Lauren? Who's Carlos? Who's Judith? Who's Ian? Who's Orestes? Who are these people? What does their story say? And I believe that a brand positioned well will communicate all that and tell that story. But it seems the most important ingredient of a brand positioned well is authenticity. Am I missing something here, Golden?
I would actually add to that beautiful explanation to how founders can get access to money, funding, and to boost their sales and expand their business. Number one thing is to become more aware of the opportunities that exist in the present moment, and think about who you are, where you want to be. And the key there is understanding how to get there. And that's where a lot of clouds come in when founders want to go on this journey of growth. They don't really understand the how to get there. And as you mentioned, it's the community, it's the awareness of who you are, your branding. But I would love to really put the pin in the balloon, as you say, wake people up. It's how you position yourself. Really audit where you are now and where you want to be, and learn how can you position yourself into the spaces you want to be most successful in. Who do you want to follow? Who's already there in those rooms? And really align yourself with those characteristics first, not necessarily the funding, the sales and things like that, but the characteristic is going to get you in those rooms, because ultimately you are the driver of your success. You're driving yourself to that bank, to that destination, to that outcome of whatever that is you're building. It's you. So when you peel off the layers of lack, scarcity, doubt, fear, inauthenticity, and then you really drive forward into the destination you want to be in and position yourself and put yourself in those spaces that maybe you feel inadequate in, however you belong in, I want you to really focus on those steps and the path you take to get there. And that's what's key. And that's what positioning is all about. It's not necessarily about marketing ads and influencer and trending. It's about who you are, where you want to be, and how you're strategically going to work every single day, every moment to put yourself into that position.
Thank you so much, Golden. Thank you so much, Roundtable. Thank you for your expressions. Audience, please take time to follow these different leaders, these visionaries, these people that are on a pioneer path. It's been so well to be able to sojourn with you. Believe it or not, this is one of the most favorite roundtables. I've moderated hundreds of roundtables with GatherVerse. This is absolutely one of my most very heartfelt roundtables we've ever had. I have learned a lesson from each of you. I take it with me, Ian. I take it with me, Lauren. I take it with me, Avery. I take it with me, Dr. Morris, Golden, Judith, Carlos, dear Orestes. Please take care. Our gather was well. And when we meet each other again, may our gather be well.
Goodbye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And without trust, none of this matters. I'll say it again. Without trust, none of this matters. Trust in innovation, trust in me, trust in you, trust in community, trust in what we build, what we share, what we say, what we mean, what we express. Without trust, none of it matters. We talked today about authenticity. Can I be authentic? Oh, yes, we did just talk about authenticity. Can I be honest and open? Do I have to portray myself to be something that I'm not and never want to be in order to do business with you and for you to do business with me? This is the most pivotal, seminal time of innovation we've ever known. We're headed towards a future, if you will, of innovation, where the extension of reality and who we are and what we do will be magnified 50 to 100x fold. Can I know you? I don't want to know the AI you. I want to know you with all your vulnerabilities, all your uncomforts, your mistakes, your errors, your compassion, your relevancy. I want to share in community with you to better understand what I don't know. Hopefully that will allow me to turn my eyes inward and be able to tend to things of the heart. Can I know you? Can I be authentic? And can we have trust together? We had a dramatic opening roundtable discussion. There was so much candor that was expressed, followed by a roundtable of thought and think. And lastly, we situate ourselves on being educators and guides and determining collectively that the best marketing strategy for you to be able to raise capital is to present your authentic self in such a fashion that you don't go to the highways and the byways and look around trees and under rocks to look for business and opportunities, but you present yourself in such a fashion that when you arrive, that there's a beacon glow so bright that you bring people to you. And right now, there are people that are searching for you this very moment, the tribal identification, to understand that in some small part, or perhaps a bigger part, that you are a touchstone, a stepping stone for their path forward. And they don't know you. They don't even know that you exist. But they have hope and that they believe Because when they find themselves presented to you, you will see them. And together with that bond, may the ties be strong, and may trust forever be in your way together. We're asked to trust these machines we do not know. We're giving away a sense of sovereignty and identity and judgment to machines that we do not know. We never want to dismiss the opportunity for us as people and forsake that for a machine. To get to know one another and the immensity and the magnitude of what that means. To build together, to scale together in human centricity. To learn. That is human. To make a mistake and to be perfectly imperfect. Welcome to GatherVerse. I have learned this day from you with every sense of dramatic flair that I often offer. I promise you, the time has been well spent. And I look forward to the next occasion, tomorrow as we assemble for GatherVerse Money Summit, Day 2, 2025. And as for Day 1, our gather was well. And in closing, may the bonds and the ties that we bind be strong and encapsulated in trust, authentic trust. I have more trust for the chasms of the human heart than ever I will for a machine. And it's of that trust is where we begin our innovations. It's where we build. And it's where we discover in this frontier. Technology hyperscale. Farewell and be good.
He's on a drug. children not to do what I have done. Spend your lives in sin and misery in the house of the rising sun. Well, I got one foot on the platform, the other foot on the trail. Going back to New Orleans to wear that ball and chain. Well, there is a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know